Welcome to the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright, an exciting thrill ride through the wonderful world of HBCU athletics. Before our trip begins, let's set a few ground rules. First, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Second, hit the like button. Third, please be sure to tell someone else about this show. Now that we've got these things out of the way, it's time for our journey to begin. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your ride.
All right, man. Good evening. What's up, Blue?
What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, man, doing great, man. Exciting time of the year. Zoe's gonna join us here momentarily, but man, exciting time of the year, man. I'm really looking forward to talking this ball and going over all 21 FCS HBCU teams with you and with Zoe. And yeah, man. So we got a lot to cover, and we not gonna delay the time, man. So first and foremost, everybody hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe, and also comment as you see fit. All right, Blue. So we're gonna get started here. Let's go with the three. People like to say independents, but they do have homes, they have leagues. So we'll start with the CAA here with North Carolina A&T. So just a little bit as we have here, Vincent Brown, 2-21 overall, fired at the end of last season. Sean Gibbs takes over, coming in off of consecutive 1-win seasons. All right. Blue, what you got to say about North Carolina A&T, my brother?
I don't think the journey's over in terms of the rebuild here. I think they're probably due for another pretty bad season, Wayne. I'll be honest with you. I do think that they have more returning talent than a lot of people think. And so I don't know if the wins will represent it per se, because there's always teams that are better than their records show. And I think they're going to be one of those teams that takes a step forward as a team. I mean, their schedule was really, really tough. I think that's where it's going to catch up to them. And just because in the CAA, I mean, people I know talk about the transition, and maybe the CAA isn't what it was about 10 years ago, but there's still some really, really good teams in the CAA. And you've had some teams that weren't good when A&T joined that have become good, making it even more complicated to navigate. I think they're actually going to be pretty good at the line of scrimmage, man. They got 3 returning offensive linemen that are pretty good. They've recruited well recently under this new staff at offensive line. Linebacker is going to be super talented. The question for me is going to be the secondary along with skill position. I think quarterback is the obvious question mark. They've been really bad at quarterback. And even in spring ball, they were really banged up, man. They were missing like probably 6, 7, 8 potential starters in spring practice, just from little knick-knack injuries. You got to keep them out to get healthy. So I think quarterback, weapons, and then the secondary are going to be the biggest question marks for them.
All right. So on the next slide here, I've got my predictions. So for all the North Carolina A&T folks out here, please don't kill me. So this is how I feel, and we'll bring Zoe up here. So Zoe, we're just talking about North Carolina A&T. Listen here. So what I got, I have best case and I have worst case. I have this for every team that we're covering tonight. Okay. Now, for me, listen, it pains me to say that they'll be 0-12, but it's really hard, to Blue's point. The teams that are in the CAA that they have to play, and even just the non-conference that they're playing. This is hard, man. Blue, Zoe, do y'all see any possibles here?
I do.
Yeah.
I'll say I really live by this. It's hard to go undefeated, as you guys know, no matter the level. But it's also just as hard to go winless.
If not harder. It's really hard to lose every game.
And I'm not trying to kick them while they're down. I'm not. But just for the sake of saying I don't see them going 0-12, I'm willing to give them one with a possible 2.
Okay, so my best case does work for you guys here, because
Yeah.
my possibles are they could get Campbell. I really believe they can get Campbell. Campbell was a 3-win team last year. They're not really expected to be that much better. Rivalry, old rivalry with Hampton, possibly because they play them at home. And then also maybe Tennessee State, depending on, because it's a new regime. Of course, we'll get to Tennessee State here in a couple of slides. But this is a tough, man. This tough thing. Go ahead, Zoe.
I was just going to say, the one thing that I live by in college ball is that even on a really, really good team, that first game still in a lot of instances is up for grabs.
Right.
Because anything funky can happen. Even a bad team can look good on, on week 1. And so being that Tennessee State is bringing in a new staff, and even if, let's say, for example, A&T only goes 1-11 next year with the only win being Tennessee State, and that could end up looking like a bad loss for them, they can look good on, that first week, and Tennessee State can actually go on to be a really, really, really good team. Like, that's very, very possible. So,
yeah.
Facts.
And there's more continuity. I know A&T underwent a coaching change as well. There's more continuity roster-wise at A&T than Tennessee State. So I don't know if the chemistry building is going to take as long, especially because they have continuity in key spots. I mentioned 3 defensive tackles, 3 offensive linemen, 3 linebackers, 2 safeties. Tennessee State doesn't have that many people on the entire roster coming back. They did a good job recruiting to get there, but I'll be honest, I think best case might be 3.
Okay.
I think that would be my best case, because I could see Tennessee State, I could see Hampton, I can see Maine, who I don't think is going to be that good, and like you said, I can see Campbell. So that would be 4 possibles. I just don't see them getting all 4, if that makes sense. I think they could get 3 out of those 4, because especially you get Hampton at home. Tennessee State, for what it's worth, is not a tough place to go and win, just because the crowd isn't super hostile. And then Campbell, like you said, is at home. They were a 3-win team last year. And I'll say the sneaky one could be South Carolina State, depending on how quarterback play is for them, because they did lose a lot.
And that's their homecoming, too. Be a lot of emotions, because we know how that homecoming for them went last year. So they definitely want to redeem themselves with the patrons.
I was actually going to ask a question, since you mentioned A&T with Tennessee State, both being, Sean Gibbs, and they kind of mirror each other in a little way. When you talk about Sean Gibbs in his first year having great success at Fort Valley State, and then you mentioned John Blank. I'm drawing a blank. Tennessee State's coach.
Yeah. We're talking about Reggie Barlow.
Forgive me, I'm drawing a blank. But Barlow coming in over from the XFL, and at Alabama State, they're in similar situations. So what I would ask is, Tennessee State is different because they had success, with Eddie George, and then you mentioned now North Carolina A&T, they didn't. So what would you guys deem to be a successful year? Knowing the expectations are going to be low for A&T, what would you deem to be a successful year for them in year 1 under Sean Gibbs?
Blue?
I don't even think Zoe is tied to the wins, in my opinion. I even said it before you got on. I think even, let's just say they go 1-11, Zoe, I think because of coaching alone, they're going to be a better football team than they were the past 2 years. Even if the wins aren't there, because we know, and like people forget, on Saturdays, even the best teams don't always perform well, and you can lose a bunch of close games and be right there. If you're 1-11 and you're competitive against Central, you're competitive against Hampton, you're competitive in conference, I consider that a success. I think if they get to 3, Zoe, that's a remarkable season for A&T year 1 of Gibbs. I think you got to get to that 2 mark. The biggest thing is you can't win none. Even if you look good on the field, I think just the perception of being 0-12 would overshadow any improvement you had on the field. Because I did want to remind you, Zoe mentioned how hard it is. There was only 1 winless team in FCS football last year, and that was Northwestern State, who was coming off of a really emotional year where they lost a player, had to cancel their season. Not a normal year. So every program outside of them found a way to win at least 1 game. I think 2, Zoe, to me, it would be a good season as long as you look better on the field in terms of performance, execution, things like that.
Yeah, so the best case scenario here, 2-10 is what I give them, and I see the consensus from my two fellas here. All right, moving on. We got Hampton. All right. Hampton, last year they were 5-7. Trenton Boykin, he's now got the permanent gig, even though it's really his second season there as a coach. Jaquan Snipes was their leading rusher last year. He returns. And then you've got Isaiah Freeman, Lincoln PA transfer. He's the assumed starter because the previous starter, he transferred out. And, I thought Trenton Boykin, I'll say this, I think given the circumstances that he had, he did a fabulous job with these guys last year. 5-7. And this 5-7 could have even been the other way. They lost some close games. So, Blue, I'll let you take first swing here. 2025 Hampton Pirates before we do the prediction.
I think they upgraded at quarterback. As good as Zealous was, and he's at Stony Brook now battling for that job, I think Isaiah Freeman brings a different upside than he does, especially as a passer, because they're both pretty athletic, but Zealous really struggled with consistency, just your down-to-down throws, especially in the intermediate range. I really do think that the question for them comes into just skill position. Wide receiver, what's the depth behind Snipes? And that's where I'm concerned because they lost a ton of talent at wide receiver. Offensive line should be really good, man. They returned 4 guys that played over 200 snaps. And I think offensive line wise, they've competed well in the CAA. So that's where they'll be fine. Defensively, though, man, no defensive tackles coming back, only one edge rusher. They hit the portal pretty well, but they're going to need some of these guys they brought in to grow up real, real quickly because they had a lot of D2 transfers that were really successful at the Division II level, all conference, all American level guys. But again, it's a step up to the D1 level. Can those guys transition their games to this level and be contributors year one? Because they're going to need it.
Yeah. Now, Zoe, you guys play your alma mater plays them in the season opener. So I know you've got some comments about them. So feel free, my brother.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. I always go into year 2 after a first year head coach. Whenever they're on a fringe 500 team, then there's some cause for concern and also, optimism, right, for that particular team. Because again, we always know that every team gets better from game 1 to game 2. Well, pretty much teams get better from year 1 to year 2. And again, they were a fringe 500 team, return back some talent and then go into the second year. So now what does that look like, right? Because again, if they were competitive in the CAA and they even though they finished probably in the bottom half, but for them, let's say they win 6 games last year. In that conference, that holds some weight in comparison to some other conferences on the FCS level, right? So now you go into year 2. So what does that look like, And then I'm not well in tune with how they recruited, but again, Hampton's in a talent-rich area, and so if they're getting a lot of local guys, they're going to be some talent there, right? So now you go into year 2. Again, first game of the season, even for a loaded team like Jackson State, a first game in college, I don't care what level it is, there's cause for concern because even if you have experience and great depth coming back, you don't really know what you have in game 1 because it's a new team, new pieces. Jackson State is doing some new things. Now, do I believe we'll get the win? Sure, I do. But again, this game has great intrigue because it is game 1. And again, I expect Hampton to be better than last year. I think this will be a great test for us. I think it's also a great opener, also a great non-conference game for Jackson State because, again, let's say Hampton is only 2 games better than last year. That's significant. That's significant improvement within that league, right? And it's also, it could be a great win within the SWAC because no matter how we spill it, how many wins does the SWAC have against the CAA? And
I don't remember the last one off the top of my head. I don't remember because Campbell was in the Big South OVC when Jackson beat them for homecoming, so they don't even count.
Exactly.
Correct.
And so, so that's the thing. They have some intrigue. And look funny thing here. As you guys know, I'm at Amazon, and so there are so many people that I work with now. They pretty much migrated here to Mississippi from Virginia, right? And I've been hearing it already for Norfolk and from Hampton. And I'm like, y'all do know Hampton is playing the Jack first game. They're shocked they didn't even know it. So I got about, I'm not exaggerating, I got like about 40 people I'm bringing from Virginia to this game. So, but to your point though, Wayne, I think it's going to be a good game. I really, really do. I think it's going to be a competitive game. I expect us to get the win, but I think it's going to be a close, nip and tuck game because I expect improvement from Hampton in year 2.
All right, so here's my prediction for Hampton. I actually have them have them at the same spot, but you see where I have them. Best case, I think this could be a 7-win team. Now, Blue, you made the point that I was going to make about their defense. That is where I have the most concerns about this squad, because arguably defense was what won them the games and had them competing a lot last year. So the games that I do have them in, though, I mean, the Howard game is a swing game for me because it's a rivalry and it's a road game this year. The other swing game that I have for them is probably potentially the Elon game, maybe. But the rest of this, what do you guys think?
I mean, I would flip the Howard game. I mean, we'll talk about him, but I'm not high on Howard this year at all.
I would too.
Okay.
I think they take a big step back. I would be shocked if Hampton lost that game, to be honest with you.
All right.
And to your point about the best case scenario, to Blue's point that he just made, if you flip the Howard and Jackson State game, they're sitting at 7-5 right there. And
yeah,
so,
you got it. Yeah, you're right.
And so that's a big thing. So I agree with Blue. I would flip the Howard loss. I'm not big on Howard at all. Okay. I feel Howard gets leapfrogged by Delaware State this year.
All right, and we'll definitely get to them later. In fact, just in a little bit. So, worst case, I have them a 4-win team. I think Boykin is doing something good for these guys. He's just gotta continue to develop, the continuity in that program and get more recruits in. But I think he's doing a pretty good job. And CAA, man, again, this is a tough schedule.
Yeah, you got I think 4 wins would be brutal. Because I mean, what would your 4 wins be? I mean, you would have obviously Elizabeth City,
right?
You have A&T,
yep,
probably Campbell. Like losing to Norfolk or Maine at home would be a brutal loss. Like,
yep,
to not win either, and that would put you at 5-7 if you win both of those. So, I just think if you lose any of the games that you have listed as a win right here, that really turns the schedule on its head for them, because now you have to win one of these tougher games. Because, like you said, I think week 1 they're losing to Jackson is as close as that game could possibly be, because it's week 1. I just don't see that one. I mean, and then I kind of look down the schedule. At Villanova is going to be brutal. Monmouth projected to win the conference.
Yep.
William and Mary is always tough. And then Rhode Island won the conference last year and is projected to potentially win it again. You got that one on the road in late November in Rhode Island.
Right.
I just don't know where the other win would come if you lose some of those guarantee games on the schedule.
Exactly. So that's Hampton, y'all. Everybody make sure you hit the like button as we go on. Now we hit Tennessee State. All right. Eddie George, everybody knows he departs for Bowling Green. It's kind of funny. I just took my daughter on a visit there Saturday. And they were practicing. Reggie Barlow, Zoe, was hired from the UFL, DC Defenders. And you look at his staff, Blue, Greg Williams, DC, longtime NFL guy, Dexter Jackson, NFL guy, Shannon Harris, coming from familiarity from the DC Defender staff. And then, as we said, this is a complete overhaul of the roster. I mean, complete overhaul. Blue, take the wheel.
Yeah, I think the staff is so good, and I think the staff can get them a game or two. It's just, in today's age of college football, returning 6 guys from last year's team that played over 200 snaps, it's just hard to compete, especially in a conference like the OVC Big South, where it's so competitive every year, where one game can take you from tying for the division lead to putting you at 5th. Like, that's how tight the race was last year. And Tennessee Tech's is the preseason favorite. I really like that team. UT Martin's always good. SEMO's always good. You're kind of fighting off that bottom pack where Lindenwood's been D1 now for a few years, and they're starting to build some momentum. That's what I'm worried about. Is I think when I look at the staff, I think that's a good 2026 staff, because I just don't know this year. Like Zoe asked earlier, what would be a good first season for A&T? I think as good as Tennessee State could possibly be, and I could be completely wrong, I think if they win 5 games, that's an A+ year with the schedule that they have.
You're gonna like it when you see my prediction. I'll show the prediction, and then Zoe, you can talk from it. Now, mind you, my prediction of this team is just because of how good this staff is, and because of the uncertainty that when you get beyond the top heaviness of the Big South OVC. I have them actually breaking even. And I have their worst case is 4 wins. Now, I'll tell you, you can definitely tell what the 4 could be. But just, take a look at this, Zoe. What do you think?
I think best case scenario would be 5 wins.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm one game ahead of the curve. All right.
So and the reason why I say that, I know we'll get into it later. I'm more of a bigger believer in Alabama A&M and what they can do under Sam Shade this year. And I'm not just saying it coming on this platform. I've actually said it beforehand.
Yeah.
Because the talent wasn't bare. I think Sam Shade is a good segue from one coaching staff to another in Alabama. But Tennessee State is not so much. I think Barlow will end up having success there, possibly if he keeps his staff intact. But also, I think the style of defense that they like to play, that's not something you just actually transition to and just have success in year one. Greg Williams has been a NFL D coordinator all this time, and it's hard to get kids. I can tell you this from experience with Jackson State. It's hard to get college kids in line to an NFL defense rather quickly. Even though defense tend to pick up, before offenses do. And so I think it's just going to take them a solid year to get their bearings, to have some sort of success, depending on how they recruit after this season, right? But I think 5 is the ceiling. I really, really do. I think the floor is 3 wins. I think the ceiling is 5.
Yeah, I think the other thing, guys, why I look at them to potentially get to 6 wins, man, they got a lot of home games. And when you got a new staff, man, playing at home, I mean, I know this is probably how the stadium will look most of the time.
I'm about to say it's neutral. It's a neutral field.
But it's still in the city. Now, Perry had this question. He said, what was the key to Tennessee State's success last year? Was it recruiting / NIL, the transfer portal, or development of players?
It was development. It was development and having those players all that stayed for the duration of time that Eddie George was there. It was a slow build.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that is the 3 teams that people like to call independents, but you got your 2 CAAs and your Big South OVCs. All right, now let's move to the MEAC, everybody. All right, so we'll start this. These are your top returners by statistical category. Now, don't worry, SWAC fans. When we get to the SWAC, I got the same slide for this too. All right, so Kevin King, I think, is a really, really good football player. I was a fan of him last year, leading rusher, 944, 10 TDs. I think he will be even better under the tutelage of Michael Vick's staff. Najee Lally from Delaware State. This was a big returner for Delaware State. They don't have a lot of returners, but this was good to get the leading receiver to come back, right? 541 and a TD, catching passes from Marquis Adams most of the year. Then you've got the leading passer coming back, Walker Harris, who's the returner with NC Central, 1800. Tariq Miles, Norfolk, leading tackler, another guy. Tackling machine, gonna get better in that system. And then you see Noah Miles from Howard. He was the leading tackle for loss, and he also led in sacks from a returner. All right. The MEAC, they lost a lot of talent. All right. A lot of talent left out that door from last year via transfer or graduation in the case of South Carolina State. All right. So these are the last conference titles won, right? So I know a lot of people, they're very high about Michael Vick and, but you look at the challenge that's ahead where you look at, they've only won and it was vacated because they had an ineligible player. In the history of Norfolk State football, they only won the MEAC just that one time. Okay. You see 07 and then you see your recents. Morgan State is a little bit more distant, but you can see the last 3 champions in succession: Central, Howard, South Carolina State last year. And this year is going to be pretty good. So let's start with Delaware State. Deshaun Jackson hired as head coach. Marquis Adams transfers out at QB. Caden Bennett comes in from Sacramento State. Blue, pick it up right there.
Yeah, love the addition. I think they upgraded quarterback. I like Marquis Adams, so it's not me saying Marquis a bad player, because I do think he's going to wind up somewhere and be really good. Bennett just brings a different level of athleticism, a different level of passing, a more refined passer, even though he's not I would say best pocket passer man, but that kid could fly too. He was doing some special things 2 years ago at Sac State. Last year got banged up, had some off the field stuff that he had to deal with, and there were some things with that staff who ended up getting let go at Sac State. But listen, I talked to Brendan Marion, who's at Sac State now. He said he thought he was out of eligibility and thought he was a really good player. Didn't even know that Sac State could have brought him back. So that should tell you the level of guy he is. And Brendan Marion thinks he's a good quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think Deshaun Jackson has a lot to prove, because there's been a lot of talk about how committed he is, how good can Delaware State be. And I think the one concern for me is the line of scrimmage with them. I look at the roster, and I just don't know if they got the size year one to really compete week to week. But I think skill positions quarterback are going to be really, really good. It's just we're going to have to find out the O-line and interior defensive line can develop throughout the season and take the week-to-week grind, because there's going to be some teams with the MEAC, some teams on their out-of-conference schedule that's going to try to run the ball on them and just big boy them. And I want to see how they respond to that.
Yeah. So I'll go to the prediction for them. I think it's still going to be a little tough for these boys. I have them at the worst case, though. I have them at their worst case, which is 2-10. Now, I have their best case is 4-8 because Howard can go anyway. Sacred Heart, I believe, could go anyway. You just don't know, man.
You don't have them winning a D1 game?
Sacred Heart, or do I have them winning D1? No, I don't. It's kind of crazy. I have Bowie State and I have the homecoming game. But
might be a little low there. I don't know. I don't think they're gonna win the MEAC. That might be a little low. There's a few gettable games on there, I would think.
So do you think the best case, do you think 4-8, or do you even see higher?
If we're talking possibles, I think Albany's possible. They don't return a lot. Obviously, Bowie State, St. Francis is about to drop to D3.
Mm-hmm.
So you would hope they could win that game. Sacred Heart's a possible. Obviously, Southern Connecticut State Church of the whatever you want to call them, university. I don't know where they found that one. And then one conference game, that would put them at 6.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Zoe, you chomping at the bit, brother.
I am. I actually think Delaware State's going to be a player this year in the MEAC. I'm not saying that they're going to win it. I don't believe that they will. But I think they're going to be a thorn in the side. I actually think that Delaware State and Norfolk State in this first year will have something to say with regards to who does win it. I think the MEAC will not be top heavy between two teams this year. Being that there's little room for error because there's only 5 conference games, I think it's going to be a lot more topsy-turvy this particular year. Also, I'm willing to add a 15, and that's Morgan State. They're going to be stingy as always on defense. The way we tend to want to feel about Alabama State, that's what Morgan State really is. And I say that because I believe there's a good chance that Marquis Adams might end up at Morgan State. And if he does, then that changes things, right? And so, but Delaware State, I agree with everything that Blue said. But I think with the quarterback that they have, I think they're going to rely on their offense within this first year. And they're going to do something different within the MEAC. It's going to have an old Jay Walker feel to it, meaning we're just going to go out here and really, really try to outscore some opponents. I'm bullish on Travis Clark, who's the assistant head coach at Delaware State. They have major talent at speed. Kobe Boykin is going to run wild in the MEAC this year. They have great talent. I'm probably willing to go on record to say they're probably going to have the fastest team in the MEAC when we talk about overall team speed. And so with that, I believe they're going to do their best to outscore opponents, because Blue said they are, short in the tooth when they talk about girth and weight on the D-line and some on the O-line, but still waiting to see what they're going to do offensively. But with their quarterback, with Kobe Boykin and what they got at speed, I can see them at best. I'm going to give them possibly with an outside chance of going 6-6. I think their ceiling is 7-5. They're not gonna really do good non-conference, and we all know this. But I think they can make some inroads because again, Howard is not an unbelievable game that we say that they just can't win. We can't sit there and say we know that they just can't Morgan State. And also South Carolina State, for all we know, they can be had. They have these funny Thursday games now. So I think their worst case is 4-8. I think best they could do is 7-5.
So I had this thing. I changed this screen in the next one. I changed this screen 6 times. I kept going back and forth because I had it at 5. I had it up to the highest I had it was 5 and 7, like what Will Wallace said. I had it at 5 and 7, and then I just kept looking at the other teams and stuff. But I agree with you guys. But we just got to see how it shakes out. All right. So now we go to Howard. Larry Scott, 5th season at head coach. Jay Sean Scroggins is back. He really wasn't the cemented starter. He just kind of was like maybe the survivor at quarterback last year with Tolbert. Then you have Eden James, who's a pretty good player for them. And then the aforementioned Noah Miles, who is the top returner in statistical categories on the defensive line. Those are your top returners. Now, my question about Howard, and I'll start with you, Zoe. If Howard, I know Howard is 2 years removed from winning the conference title. How solid do you think Larry Scott is in this program if they don't win this year?
It's kind of hard to say how solid he is. I'm not well versed with how they'll pretty much move, knowing that what things were before he actually got there. But if it's contingent on how well he does this year, then it won't be solid. Because also, if you look at the trajectory of how Howard does in football, if they just want to just got a piece of the conference championship 2 seasons ago, then by my math, they'll be bad for another 2 to 3 years before they win again. They pretty much go up and down like that, right? Howard's not known for having consistency when it comes to their football program. They go up, they come right down rather quickly. And so now, if you go by their historical relevance, they're pretty much on that downward slope. And so with that, I would see, Larry Scott not doing well. And obviously, the 5th season, they didn't do good last year. You followed it up with a 5th season, winning 4 or 3 games. Maybe he may get 1 year, but I doubt it. But again, I don't know the energy and how rabid they are in regards to making a move. Because they have been known to stay with coaches, longer than typically how we do in the SWAC in the MEAC. So
yeah, all right, Blues. All right, Blue. So the 2025 outlook and what you know about Howard.
One, they never update their roster, but we got a little insight here, and I was sent kind of what the roster should be, and they got some solid return of talent, projected like 8 starters back. But man, what I saw the last 3 games of the year when they were on that losing streak, when they lost to some of the Morgan and Central, and I just really didn't like what I saw offensively, man. They had so much talent offensively to be so bad. Like, guys, look at their running back room from last year with Jared Hunter, Eden James. Like, coming into the season, we talked about how they should be able to run the football, and they couldn't run the ball.
They did not.
Offensive line wasn't good. Quarterback wasn't good. Like, you're talking about Scroggins coming back at quarterback. He had 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, completed 53% of his passes. Not very inspiring. Noah Miles is great. I think he has an outside chance to win Defensive Player of the Year. But outside of him, lose Kenny Gallup, you lose most of your secondary, you lose your top linebacker in Holland. Like, what? I don't see anything coming back. And also with the way Howard is structured as a university, they can't take a lot of transfers. There's not a lot of transfers that get into Howard or go. So for me, there's a chance they could finish last in the MEAC, in my opinion. Especially if Delaware State and Norfolk get better like we think. And the only reason I say he's not in the he might be in the hot seat, but from what I was told by Howard people is that they don't fire coaches. And so I don't know if they care enough about football to really go out there and fire him. And so therefore, I unless his contract expires this year, which I'm pretty sure it does not, he's probably going to be back in 2026.
Yeah. All right. So here's the prediction. I actually have them winning. Have them winning one conference game. But again, this is one that I had them. You see how I have the worst case?
Mm-hmm.
And that is very, very real because Hampton, Sacred Heart, and honestly, thinking about what we talked about with Hampton, I really think that the Hampton game, I mean, even though it's a home game and it's a rivalry, it's either way. And then the Delaware State game, either way. Outside of those games that I said, I don't see a way forward for them to win any of the other games that are up there. Like the Morehouse game is a guarantee, but the rest of them,
I tell you what, that Morehouse game was a guarantee. But if they don't win that Morehouse game, it's gonna get ugly in DC.
Oh yeah, it'll get. If they play FAMU to start off, get the doors blown by Temple in a payment game. If they lose to Morehouse, that thing could be. You could be looking at Ofer real quick.
Yeah.
So
for them, they really need to hope Tennessee State's not good. That would be best case for them, is so you can get that one on the road right before conference play. Because what happens? I mean, like you talk about worst case. Let's just say you win Morehouse, you lose to Hampton, lose to Richmond, give them Sacred Heart, lose to Tennessee State. I mean, if you're going into conference play with 2 wins, only 1 Division I win, and Sacred Heart's not good at all, man, where's the confidence of the roster?
Right.
Or the team or the fan base, man. Like,
right.
Because you got homecoming against Morgan, so I'm assuming they'll show out. But Howard already doesn't have great attendance. How many people are coming to watch a 2-win team versus Central at home to give you that home field advantage?
Facts. So that's why I said all of the reasons that you guys said is why I have worst case 1-11. So
if he goes 1-11, everything I say might. Everything I said might go off. If they go 1-11, they might pull the trigger on that. Like, that would be, especially because how many losses in a row would that be to Hampton?
Like, that would be 4. I know they're actually be 5 in a row to Hampton. Last year they lost them for the 4th straight time. Yeah.
That can't happen if you're Howard.
Yeah. So that's Howard. All right. Now we move to the Spartans of Norfolk State. All right, we know Michael Vick's hired, head coach. Talk about Kevon King. Otto Coons, a guy who is from right down the road right here in Columbus. Redshirted last year. He's back. He's in the mix to be the quarterback. Even though no one said, they have not solidly said if he's going to be the starter or not. Then you got Dalen Long and then Keyshawn Lynch. Those are 2 good guys that return on defense. So, Blue, Norfolk State.
It's not a really, really good transfer portal class. They brought in a ton of talent. Now, they did lose to Marion Edwards, who transferred back to Alcorn. That was a big loss in the linebacker. He was really, really good pickup. But man, they raided Hampton. I want to say they added 4 or 5 different players from Hampton that all played and started. So rated them. They added a few guys just from other FCS contenders that were starters and main contributors on top of, for a coaching change, and I get it because it's Michael Vick, right? Who wouldn't want to play for Michael Vick? Especially a lot of these local kids on the roster. They return a ton of talent that you wouldn't expect in a normal coaching change. Like, offensively, they return so many players, and then defensively, man, just for guys who played over 150 snaps. I mean, like, I'm looking here just at the roster. We have 13 players come back that played over 150 snaps last year, including multiple starters.
Yep.
I think. And you look at why Dawson Odoms got fired, right? It's because he couldn't win the close game. And teams that are close enough to win with good coaching, all it takes is for 1 or 2 coaching decisions or plays to go the other direction. And we might, if Dawson Odoms wins, let's just say 60% of those close games, he might have got an extension.
Right.
Where they were.
Right.
I mean, you think last year, man, FAMU, they let slip through their fingers. They let multiple conference games they were in the lead slip through their fingers. 2 years ago, they lost like 5 or 6 games by 1 score.
Yep.
Vic and this staff can coach, man. The OC was the former OC, I believe, at Old Dominion, man. When they were balling right before they transitioned, they got some coaching. And I think if they can win some of these close games, because they had individual talent, Norfolk could be super sneaky. They're my dark horse to win the conference this year. I think that's how good this team can be if they nail quarterback.
And I'll even tell you this one, another one that is under the radar. When they got Khalif Jimerson to transfer over from Delaware State, that guy, I know Delaware State only won 1 game last year, but Jimerson was a really good defender for them. So that's another one that you add to the mix for them. So I'm gonna go to the prediction, and then I'm gonna let you talk from it, Zoe. So again, this is another one that can go in either way. So you see, to Zoe's point, best case, I think these guys could win 8 games. I have them at 5 and 7 because of the shaky nature of the new staff and learning and things like that. But I give them a chance against definitely against Hampton, definitely against Wofford, and especially Morgan State. So talk about it, Zoe.
Well, I want to echo everything Blue said. I want to give this caveat though. You mentioned Odoms, you mentioned everything of how the season went last year. Norfolk State this upcoming season really truly reminds me of Southern last year. And what I mean by that, the only difference is you're talking about Graves coming in with the staff that was there the year prior. But what I mean by that is Southern, who finished 8-5, by the way, which the record that we said, but first year, first time head coach with a good staff, right? Good nucleus of players, and then I can foresee them playing in a lot of close games. You look at Southern, it wasn't pretty, right? And they were in a lot of close games, exactly what Blue said, but then they found ways to win those games. No matter how, though it was ugly, and sometimes you got to be lucky, but it's year one, and you still win some of those ugly games. And again, you're talking about a talent-rich area, which they got a lot of local high school kids, some damn good linebackers out of the 757 to come to Norfolk. And when you talk about, again, going to play good defense, they have a great O-line coach over there at Norfolk State. And I know that they're going to run the ball. When you talk about being able to do that, and again, they're going to be in close games. It's going to look like what the ball about. I think the thing for them is the biggest thing for Norfolk this year is going to be learning how to win, putting it all together in year one, and they're going to have some lumps with that, as the season go on, and that's why I think they'll trip up here and there and lose a game they probably could have a chance to be in. They're going to find their way within this first year. I expect them in year 2 to be very, very formidable, under Mike Vick, as well as Deshaun Jackson at Delaware. But again, I think best case scenario, I agree with you totally. I think worst case for them though is 5 and 7.
So you think where I have them, you think that's the bottom line?
Yes, I think 84 is their ceiling.
All right.
I think worst case scenario is 5 and 7. I truly do. But I think again, they're going to be in close games, and to Blue's point, if they're in close games and they're going to lose some this close, they're going to win some, but they're going to take their lumps in year 1.
Yeah, I got them getting that get back because one of those games, the game that pissed me off about them last year, and Blue, it was when I had you on my show, when they blew that game against Sacred Heart.
Oh, yeah. That was
that was the one that really got, I was like, come on, man, you cannot lose that game. So I got them definitely getting that get back this year. So this will be good, man. And that Norfolk game against Delaware State, man, Philadelphia in the link. That'll be awesome on a Thursday night. I know, on a Thursday.
Yeah, I'm telling you guys that week 1 game, I believe that might be on a Thursday too, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a Thursday. Yeah.
Townsend's legit. And I'm just going to say this. If Townsend comes into Norfolk and Norfolk finds a way to beat Townsend, man, you aren't going to be able to get me more excited for MEAC football if they're beating a team like Townsend, because that's a team that Morgan hasn't been able to beat in how many years? Almost, it seems like forever. And you already know, guys, this Thursday night, it's going to be packed out for Mike Vick's first game Thursday night in primetime. And it's going to be a tough matchup for Townsend. If Norfolk is competitive, I'm extremely excited on their ceiling.
You know what? Another good point, Blue, you just made up. That Thursday night game is going to be packed, but let's get into the MEAC season, right? Well, we talk about attendance and atmosphere in the MEAC. Norfolk State is going to have a new, different atmosphere, unlike all the other schools within the conference, right?
Yeah.
Michael, those games in Norfolk are going to be packed. I really believe.
Yeah, they're going to remove the tarps. And they've had sections tarped off.
I also think that Norfolk's probably going to lead the MEAC in attendance this year.
And well, they have, right? Like last year, Norfolk was 11th nationally in attendance with 14.5.
Wow.
Per game. Norfolk State had more fans than South Carolina State, North Carolina A&T, Alcorn, Grambling. Like the Norfolk State was 1 spot behind North Dakota State and 2 spots behind FAMU last year in attendance. And now you add Mike Vick to the fray.
So now you're talking about a whole new atmosphere within the conference. And that could be, and again, we talk about close games. when you actually have a true home field advantage, you know what I'm saying, a new energy, you know what I'm saying, at that, you know, at for home games. Now we talk about those close games and finding a way to win. Could be an advantage for them.
Yeah, it said the city is offering free parking and busing to the stadium. Yep, that's true.
It's going to be packed out then, especially for that South Carolina State game. If they get through out of conference play with a winning record, that South Carolina State game, you might not even be able to buy a ticket for that one.
Yeah.
Nope. So that's why I said, man, 8-4. It seems realistic, but again, it's just like you got to see how things progress. So that's Norfolk State. Okay, now we switch to Morgan State. We got Damon Wilson returning for his 4th season. Now, here's the crazy thing now. You got Jason Collins and Eric Hunter being the preseason players of the year at both positions, all right? This team, they've played good defense the last few years. They have mucked it up on offense, despite the fact that Jason Collins last year was as solid of a back as you can have. But they were a no-show against South Carolina State. When they actually had an outside chance to maybe backdoor their way back into the race. So Damon Wilson, he's had a very good pedigree as a coach, but it's getting a little bit late now in the tenure, and people are looking for things to happen there in Baltimore. Blue, Morgan State.
I mean, you just kind of laid it all out, right? I think next year, or this upcoming year, their offensive line should be really good. They have 5 guys that played over 280 snaps last year. They returned 4 starters on the offensive line. You mentioned Collins coming back. Again, though, man, until they find a quarterback, I mean, it's kind of tough to project. Now, I've heard good things about Taj throughout the spring and fall camp. They also have a new guy they added that's been making a little bit of waves. So we'll kind of see on that quarterback battle. But, I mean, I've heard some really good things about the defense again, which isn't surprising, right? You would expect the defense to be good under Damon Wilson, especially with a piece like Eric Hunter coming back, who combined with Shell and Maddox at linebacker too, they probably had the best linebacking core in the MEAC. The question for me is defensive line. Now, they added a few transfers from other FCS schools and stuff that were really good prospects that were in the portal. But guys, man, people don't understand how good Elijah Williams really was.
Right.
Like, really went and looked at the film from run defense to rushing the passer to just everything he did. It was just making plays. And I don't know if they have that guy. And so I really want to see what happens as they develop some more on the defensive line, man. But I'll say this, man, Eric Hunter is going to be special, regardless of what the record is. Watch you a Morgan State game, because I've talked to some scouts. He is the consensus number 1 HBCU NFL draft prospect. Like, there's nobody even close, is what one scout told me.
Mm-hmm.
Just watch some Eric Hunter film, because he's 6'4", 220, and they're saying that he might even play some safety.
Oh,
because
wow.
he's so athletic. So just turn on a Morgan State game this year.
Yeah, and just from last year, I'll say this before I get to the prediction. They played the best defense against North Carolina Central last year. Remember that game they played North Carolina? They played them in Durham. The
past 2 years, they played really good.
They shut them down. And so they just got to find it on offense. But here's where I got. I actually think that they're going to be. I think they have a chance to be pretty good. I actually do.
That's high. That's way higher than I thought it was going to go.
But however, look at where I got the worst case, though. Look at where I got the worst case. It could go the opposite way. And you see the wins. The reason why I've got them 7-5. First of all, they got 3 gimmies right there. Well, it should be 3 gimmies. Central State, Miles, and Lynchburg. Okay. Then you got Howard, which I think that they should win. Georgetown's a swing game. Delaware State, you don't know what Delaware State could be. If they're not Delaware State, that's a win. And then also, you don't know about Norfolk State. So that's why I have them at 7 wins. I mean, primarily because they have 3 layups.
Looking at the schedule, I get it, because from Central State to Howard, I don't know if I could talk myself into them losing any of those games, even if they have the worst offense in the conference.
Exactly. But on the worst case, if they don't do anything on offense, that could be their only 4 wins, because they could muck it up at Howard, which I don't think they will. And then, like I said, I don't think that they're good enough to beat South Carolina State or North Carolina Central. What do you think, Zoe?
Looking at the schedule, it changes things. So I would say that the worst they can do is 5 wins.
Yeah.
I would pretty much guarantee the 4 plus Howard. I would guarantee that.
Okay.
So you're walking in with 5 wins.
There
Now the thing that's going to change everything is everything else. And I'm gonna be honest. I think Delaware State is going to shock offensively within the conference. Delaware State's going to have too much speed. Morgan State, and we say defense wins championships, right? But it goes to show you got to have some form of offense. And just as good as they were on defense, they were just that bad on offense last year. Like their offense negated their defense. And honestly, if they even mirror that, I don't see them winning 7 games. So I would say the best they could do is 7 games, right? I would say best case scenario 7-5, worst is going to be 5-7.
All right. Yeah. Works for me. All right. Let's move on. South Carolina State. Chennis Berry, second year. They were picked preseason to repeat as MEAC champions. I was very surprised by that. Some generous voting.
Me too.
So you got Jared Washington. That's their top returning player, by stats and all that. Because these guys lost a lot. Ashad Hall. Caden High transferred. They lost a lot. Eric Phoenix. So you got Ryan Stubblefield expected to be the new QB. Okay. What you got for us, Blue?
I would put an asterisk next to Stubblefield as a QB. They really like the kid they added from James Madison. And I heard he's been balling in camp. So I think there's more of a quarterback battle than I think we initially expected coming into the offseason. I will say Gerard Washington's legit. That kid is a baller at corner. He was a preseason All-American for us. I really like what he brings. But outside of that, man, I really am worried about the offensive line personally. They lost a ton on the offensive line, and it was one of the, I would say, more experienced offensive lines in HBCU football in general. From the SWAC to the MEAC, Chennis Berry is an O-line guy, so maybe he's developed some guys, but I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. I really think last year everything went right for them. Running back, they're going to be loaded. Wide receiver is a bit of a question mark. O-line's a question mark. I think both their quarterbacks could be good. Interior defensive line and edge are going to be great. Everything behind that, though, outside of Gerard Washington's a question mark for me. I think they take a small step back, but I still think coaching is going to get them a handful of wins, and they're not going to just fall off a cliff.
Okay, so this one I had a real hard time with. Real hard time. But this is where I have them. Oh, my God. Yeah. And again, just like the last slide, it's because of some of the games that are perceived to be layups. Charleston Southern is not any good. Bethune-Cookman, we know about them. North Carolina A&T, Howard. It's but you see where I have them worse though. I have them as a 7-win team. Worst, I have them at 7 wins. And
that seems like a lot of games, though.
So yeah, we're talking about it.
I got best case scenario 8-4.
Okay.
Worst case scenario, I'm gonna give them 6-6.
Okay.
And I think they'll probably end up being somewhere in the middle. What I'll say is, Blue's right. They're going to struggle offensively on the O-line. Knew that just from watching the championship game last year, just looking to see who they're going to be losing, who they're bringing back. But I know that, and we all know, South Carolina State, their tradition is based off defense. Well, I'm here to tell you guys, losing number 11 is going to hurt them. I forget his name, but losing number 11.
Ashad Hall. That's
Smith.
Smith.
No. Yeah, Aaron Smith.
Aaron Smith.
Yeah, Aaron Smith. Losing number 11 is going to hurt them, right? They always replace, D tackle and one good edge rusher, but that second line of defense, I think is going to be thin. And again, Delaware State has brought in some crazy speed into this conference this year. And so the thing is, And again, quarterback play. If they bring in, this new guy coming from James Madison, it's going to need time to gel in. Now a good thing for them, they play so many non-conference games that by the time conference roll around, you got so much experience. And again, you're talking about 5 games. So I just think it also with the advent of Norfolk and Delaware being formidable, or at least given, being a nuisance, instead of just being 2 teams, I think it's going to be a 4-game parlay to see who's going to actually get in and claim it. I know we all pretty much look at North Carolina Central as the dog to get it, but I think even Central can get clipped, because if 4 teams got 1 loss, it's going to get crazy. Within that conference, and that's what I truly think is going to happen. And so, but yeah, I got, like I said, 8-4 at best.
Okay, yeah, I was asked, is Wofford any good? Wofford is,
they're like a middle of the pack SoCon team. Like they can catch you. Like I don't think South Carolina State can walk in there and just be asleep. But
they play them at home.
State's a better. They're a better team. Like South Carolina State should win that game.
You're right, right. And then Savannah State. I mean, they've got some. I mean, other than obviously South Carolina, South Florida, the rest of their non-conference games they should win. They'll be favored. So what's going to make the difference for these boys is when they get into the league, for sure.
I'll be curious about those 2 road trips, though. At A&T, at Norfolk, back-to-back is going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So that's their schedule, and then we'll go to North Carolina Central. All right. So Trey Oliver, 6 year. Walker Harris back, 4 starters on offense back. Returns most of the defense. Max Urin, Malcolm Reed, Jelani Vassell. They got a lot of dudes back. And also, it's this one thing that I think he has that chip on his shoulder from just losing the last 2 years, losing to Howard and then losing to South Carolina State. All right. So I'll show what I have them at. I have them at 10-2. And their best case, I think if everything's together, I think maybe New Hampshire, they get that one. Maybe. And maybe they go 11-1. Worst case, though, I think they could be an 8-win team, 8-4. The reason why, for me, who knows what that Florida A&M game is going to be? Because FAMU down there, they're different down there. Who knows? But
unless it's valid.
I was waiting on that. I had a feeling it was coming. But Blue, you've talked at great length about North Carolina Central, about how many guys they got coming back. Me and you, we talked about it together. But just kind of for the people, just expound a little bit further about North Carolina Central.
Yeah, I think they're going to be really good. Like they're my pick to win the conference. And I think as much as they can get clipped, if there was a year that Trey can get this team through MEAC play without a loss, it's this year's team, I would believe. I think outside of Davius, I don't think Walker has the ceiling that Davius Richard has. Mm-hmm. I think the rest of their roster is better than that Celebration Bowl team. It has the potential to be. I think offensive line, they're going to be really good. Like you said, they have 4 starters coming back. Guys, they have 5 guys who started games coming back at every single position, from right tackle to left tackle. On top of, you have experience at wide receiver coming back with Spikes. Quentin McCall missed last year due to some injury things. He's coming back. You got Markel Quick. I mean, they got some guys coming back, man. I'm really impressed with what Central has coming back, and I think the schedule lays out nicely. When I look at the schedule, getting New Hampshire at home, getting Southern really early in a neutral site, your one tough road game and out of conference plays FAMU. And I think right now I feel a lot more confident about what they have coming back than I do FAMU. And I think when you look defensively, Malcolm Reed at safety is an All-American. Max Urin has been an all-conference linebacker multiple years. They have so much experience and depth along the defensive lines. This team's built to go win a Celebration Bowl, and I think it's finally time for Trey to deliver on that. And I have no problem putting the pressure on Trey, because this year the expectation should be Celebration Bowl or bust for Central, and I have no problem saying that.
That's right. That's right. John Branch asked, he said, if they don't win the conference, do you think they get in that large FCS bid? It
Probably. I mean,
depends. Yeah.
because let's just say you flip that New Hampshire game, right?
Mhm.
And let's just say Southern wins the West, which they're projected to do.
Right.
If you have a win over the SWAC West champs, you have a win over New Hampshire, you have a close loss to Old Dominion, you have a win over FAM, who let's
Yep.
just say FAM finishes second in the East or potentially upsets Jackson and wins it. How good could their resume be? And I don't think there's never been a time in the history of the FCS that a 10-win team's been left out.
Never.
They'd be in.
Right. Yeah. So Zoe, I want to hear, you got some comments about this team. I know you feel good about them too.
I do. I got them picked to win the MEAC as well, just for obvious reasons, right? Because you look at so much as how that game was played when they played South Carolina State last year. I would even go on record to say if it wasn't a monsoon that game, I think Central probably could actually win that game. It came down to the wire. Remember A&T. Remember Central came back.
Yeah, they played on Halloween night last year. That was a great game.
Remember, they came back in that game. I like Trey Oliver, like Walker Harris. I think he's a damn good quarterback. I like what they do. You know what I'm saying? And again, if you take the name off, right, and we just sit here and say within any conference, you got returning starting quarterback coming back, return your running back. You got 4 O-line starters. You got an All-American on defense. If you read all these things and just read the resume and don't look at the name, you would pretty much say this team's going to win that conference in comparison to how we spoke on all the other teams. So, I will say this: I got them going 10-2 as well, just not the losses the same. I still think, yes, do I believe they'll possibly go undefeated in conference? I do, but I also will be shocked that they got clipped one time within conference because again, it's hard to run it, man. It really, really is. You never, how teams get up for you. Having a good game, like I said, what if Marquis Adams actually goes to Morgan State and they have a formidable offense, right? With that defense, that could, and they've shown they're a bad matchup, for Central's offense. So, you look at things like that, but nonetheless, I got them in the MEAC still as it is to me with my JSU Tigers in Atlanta.
Just to put it in perspective, they have the most returning significant contributors out of any HBCU coming back. They have 27 guys who played over 100 snaps last year.
That's huge. That's huge. So this is what I have it predicted. 5-0, but again, this can go either kind of way, and we'll see how it progresses. All right. So now we're gonna get into the SWAC. Make sure everybody hits the like button. I know there's a lot of SWAC folks out here still that watching, so. I'm going to start off. I created just a little something about the SWAC. Got some random info before we get into everything with this. So Jackson State has beaten Mississippi Valley 29 straight times. It's been since 1994, last time, 1994.
No, we lost when the Cumberland was there.
Yeah, 1994.
When Cumberland coach.
Was it recently?
Yeah, we lost 20. Was it 2015 or 2016? It was one of those.
Let me see. I got you.
Yeah,
because 2016.
Because this is what I looked this up and it said that they had lost 29 straight to them.
Now we've never gone that. We've gone 20, I believe, twice because we've only lost the Valley 6 times in history.
Right.
The last loss was with Commerce. It
was 14, but if I'm not mistaken, Valley had to give up their win. So
that's it. That's why it didn't show. They had to give it up because they had an ineligible player.
The Jackson site has the loss. The Valley site doesn't. They deleted the year.
That's right. That's why.
The head coach. Okay.
So technically, they haven't beaten them 20. They've beaten them.
Why was that the first stat? That's like. Do you get credit for beating the worst team in
it was just weird. I was putting this together today.
that should have been last. That should have been last. Also.
Yeah. We got it, everybody. We got it. Top line incorrect. We got it. All right. Southern trying to break 2 current losing skids. They lost to Jackson State 6 times in a row and FAMU 5. We know that's true. And there's motivation right there for them.
That's unacceptable for that program too. Those are the 2 games you can't lose that many times in a row.
No. And This one surprising. Eddie Robinson Jr. is the longest tenured head coach
Yes.
in the SWAC and entering his 4th season.
Yep.
Talk about all the turnover, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You had 2 wide receivers last year. Giovanni Gibson, Nathan Rimbert, both go over 1,000 yards. That was the last time it happened was Xavier Smith from FAMU in 2022. And then, yeah, you're reading that right. Lincoln, California is playing 4 SWAC opponents this year, and 3 of them for homecoming. Come on, y'all. We got to get better with this.
Yeah,
and
man.
Then the West. I know of Lionel, PV, everybody, if you're watching, I know you probably like this stat. Excluding the 21 spring season, the last 5 full seasons, it's been alternated by Southern and Prairie View. And if this stuff really was true with this trend, it would suggest that maybe Prairie View would be a winner. However, we'll talk about it. Okay, those are some of the trends and random info. Okay, now here are the top returners by statistical category. Okay, Jacorian Sewell had 807 yards rushing last year, 6 TDs. He's back. We'll talk about him. Nathan Rimbert changed from Valley over to Jackson State. 70 receptions, 1,038, 4 TDs for who I call the slot machine. Jacobian Morgan's the top returning passer, 22-36, 21 TDs. He was only behind Daniel Richardson last year, as well as Makai Higgins. Don't get me started on Makai Higgins. Stamarion Edwards, Alcorn State. He had 1 foot in the transfer portal, was gone. Now he's back at Alcorn, had 95 tackles last year. Huge returner for them. And then Kelby Givens, total domination for this young man last year, 27.5 tackles for loss and 12 sacks. He tied for sack lead with Traquan Thomas last year, who played for Alabama State. So that's how that looks. Now, here's a couple other trends. Bethune-Cookman, we'll talk about them here in a minute with they lost 4 of their 6 SWAC games by less than 7 points. So when they say records are not made equal sometimes, this is they were in these games.
Yep.
So you look at 5 overtimes, and then Texas Southern, Alabama State was a little bit of a comeback, and then that FAMU game in the Classic, Dennis Palmer went to work. We'll talk about that in a minute. Grambling State, same thing. Lost 5 of their 6 SWAC games by 7 points or less. 5 overtimes, and you look at it. Alcorn State, Noah Kiani kicks a field goal at the gun. Bethune-Cookman, probably one of the worst games they played. And then we beat them at Alabama A&M. And then lastly, you look on the other side. Look how this went for Southern. They were the kings of the close games. But you look at, they played 3 overtime games, one of them going 5 overtimes. And the game against A&M, I was there. We had them, and they got us at the end. So you just look at the way these trends are, man. They're crazy. Crazy. All right. So that is how it works. Now I'll start here with the last conference title won. And it's been a minute for a lot of teams up here. There's been a lot of runs in this list. So you look at Alabama State 2004. Yeah, we won 2021 spring, but we ain't won since 2006 in a full season. Alcorn, they had that nice run 2019. Pine Bluff 2012. You look at Bethune-Cookman, they don't really count because they haven't been in the league that long, but 2015 in the MEAC. You see FAMU, Grambling. Man, we're coming up on 9 seasons now. Jackson State, 3 of the last 4, looking for 4 of the last 5. Valley, never. Since 1969. Sorry, Valley. Sorry. Shout out to Valley. Sorry. Prairie View, 2009. And then this one got me, man. I was surprised when I saw this. This one gets me every time. Southern, 2013. They've been to a good number of championship games, but just haven't been able to get over the hump. And then you see Texas Southern, theirs was vacated in 2010. So Been waiting a while for some teams. All right, let's move on. We go to Valley. Terrell Buckley hired as the new head coach, but then you see two of their better players transferred out. Tajarian Williams is actually a tight end on A&M's roster right now. Okay. Let's look at them saying Po Valley. Oh my gosh. I ain't gonna say Po Valley. I talked to Terrell Buckley as well as you did, Blue, at Media Day. I got a feeling this guy is gonna make this team something. I don't think it's gonna be this year, but I think he's gonna be able to do something with these guys. And before I turn it over to you guys, when you see the record, in fact, I'll pull it up. Here's what I have them at. Now, I need to give a caveat to this, okay? Every year, these boys seem to get somebody. I don't know who it is on here, but I got a feeling these boys are going to get somebody. All right, so Blue, you take the first crack at Valley.
I'm with you. Okay, coaching-wise, they're going to be fine. It's that situation with Tennessee State, though. I mean, you look at everything they lost, man. And I mean, especially when you're already behind the 8 ball, like all the jokes are fun. But in this age of college football, Valley is probably the worst Division I job right now. It's hard to win with those resources, man. I don't care if you put Nick Saban there. It's hard to win at Valley right now, especially year one with all the turnover and all your top players leaving. Because you also got to think they lose their all-conference edge rusher to Idaho.
Right.
As well, and your best linebacker graduates.
Yep.
And your best defensive back is at Eastern Illinois. So they lost so much at all the levels. I think if you win 2-3 games, man, what a year.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been the history, like, because I don't want to get on the hype train, because every year there just seems to be a random hype train of Valley, and it like always ends up at the same stop, which is a below 500 record. And so I don't want to get on that, but they'll be better on the field. And like you said, I think it's probably 2 wins because they always catch somebody, and obviously they're going to beat Lincoln. So I would have them at 2 wins. And if they catch, because I think you look at the schedule, Bethune-Cookman is probably a winnable game, depending on how you feel. And so then if you catch somebody else, you could get the 3. So I think somewhere in that 2 to 3 range is fine.
So my best case at 3-9. Yeah, I actually think that there's a chance they could win that Bethune-Cookman game. And again, they could pop somebody, catch them slipping. Go ahead, Zoe.
Valley actually is going to have a surprising season. You've never heard me talk like this, but to go back last year, I went on wax and said that Valley was going to be FAMU.
Right? You did.
I'm telling y'all now, I never do this. I got Valley winning 4 games this upcoming season. I'm bullish on Terrell Buckley. And and they have talent. Believe it or not, minus the speed, they're very similar to Delaware State. And what I mean by that is they're thin on the D line. They want to book up more there. But they have a great offensive scheme they're going to run. And they got some players. I got them getting Bethune-Cookman. I got them getting Lincoln. I got them getting Alabama State. And Alcorn's not out of the question.
Oof. You know what, man? Hey, like I said.
Also, let me say this. Do not be shocked if they get FAMU again this year. That game in Atlanta is in Atlanta for a reason. Terrell Buckley and Mario Edwards have some great inroads in Georgia and the Florida Panhandle. They made some great recruiting inroads as well, and they're recruiting that state pretty good. And I never do this. Not when it comes to Valley. I'm not Valley's going to get somebody this year. No. I got Valley getting those 4 games. All
right. Hey, like I said, they always seem to come up and get somebody. And, I have them at 1-11, but I'd be scared, man.
I'm glad to be saying that they're still a losing record, right? It's not like it's changing anything. But again, and also, FAMU, if they win that game, right, FAMU's going to have a winning record. That's something they can lay their hat on. And again, to say they won it 2 years in a row. But also, Lincoln, okay, that's really we could say 3, right? Because are we really going to count Lincoln? But for Valley, we will. But Alcorn is not a game that's out of the question to say that they can't win that game. Bethune-Cookman is not out of the question to say that it's impossible for them to win that game. I mean, it's those. Now, granted, if they get those 4, and again, we'll see what we see, what it looks like and how they perform it from week to week. But if they're able to get those 4, I mean, it could be amazing to see how they'll do on those other games. So I got them getting those 4, and like I said, are possible with fam.
All right. Well, that's Valley. All right, let's move on. We got Bethune-Cookman. All right, Raymond Woody, 3rd season as head coach, and we'll let you guys definitely can talk about that. Dennis Palmer, man, what a finish to his freshman year, man. That guy was really good at running back. He transfers to Troy. That hurts. Cam Ransom's back. He played a lot at QB last year. Malik Huggins, and then you got AJ Hall. Now you got new offensive coordinator Dante Pimpleton. He comes from FAU, and you got some of their top guys that are newcomer. You got Juan Rodriguez. They're kind of high on him as a freshman running back. And then you got Timmy McClain. Now this guy played at South Florida, played at UCF, also played at Arkansas State. So he's transferring in, and we'll see what it is. But Blue, talk about Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah, I think this is last year of the Woody experiment. I don't think they're going to be that good, man. Like Cam Ransom and Tim McClain, they've shown flashes, each of them throughout their career, right? But guys, they lost every single running back from last year.
Yep.
Every single one on the roster. The offensive line has a handful of guys coming back. You got Hall on the defensive line, but secondary wise, you're replacing almost every starter. And at the end of the day, I look at them kind of like I did with Norfolk under Odoms, where they can't win these close games, man. It's going to cost them over and over and over again. And once you get in that rut of not winning close games, it just spirals out of control. I think this closes the chapter of Bethune-Cookman, and it's disappointing, right? Because even though I'm like, people say I'm new to the space, I remember watching FCS football as a kid. Bro, this was a top 15 team. They were smacking people on national TV on ESPN. Like, people forget.
International.
Yes. Who did they beat in the SWAC, the MEAC SWAC Challenge? It was like 2015.
They beat Jackson State.
Yeah, it was Jackson. Dude, that team was insane. Like, people forget this was a top 25 FCS team at a time. Like, to see how far this program has regressed these past few years is really disappointing. And they're in a location where you should never have a lack of talent. Like, you are literally in a recruiting hotbed in Florida. Like, how are you this bad? It makes no sense. I'm really hoping they make a splash hire. I don't know who it is. I hear the Bridgewater talk. I've been told Bridgewater's really not concerned about coaching college football. You're in Florida. You should be able to go get whoever you want to bring them to Bethune-Cookman. This is a program that should never be as bad as they are right now.
Right. Zoe?
I would say outside of the FAMU game, and we're going back the past 3 years under Coach Woody, you don't see any fire in Bethune-Cookman. Like, you really don't. You see a team from year to year that's disinterested. Seriously. They don't have any passion, and you really don't see a boatload of just of flashes, right? You really don't. It's almost like they're just, hanging in the weeds. Seriously. And they're a long way, to Blue's point, from what they were. Even with them actually transitioning over to the SWAC, you never foresaw this. You never foresaw this when they came into the SWAC, right? I mean, from year one, it nosedive. And it seems like there's no interest, within the football program anymore, even from their fan base, because it appears like it's dwindled, right? And so, it's almost like it's been infected, and there's a malaise within the program. So, I don't even really get the whole thing about him being on a hot seat. I mean, I get it from the losing sense of it, but again, the job now isn't really attractive if you really look at it. So who are you going to attract? Because the easiest thing to do is fire somebody. The hardest thing is to hire the right person.
Yeah, right.
Because he was only there for 3 years, and you fire him, and I'm telling you, so you got to strike it hot. But no, man, they don't have anything, and to lose all your running backs, and again, that's another new thing. Not just the starter, but even the reserves, right? Then again, Cam Ransom, what did he do at quarterback last year? He didn't really show flashes to me, and pretty much he's a running quarterback at, for the most part as it is. Doesn't appear to fit what they want to do on offense. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the downsides that we got to talk about within the portal. Is just like you pretty much just get what you can, and instead of just trying to fit something that actually fits your scheme. And they don't look good, man. And that's why I say I can easily see Valley clipping them. I really do. So again, I look, the wins. Look, it pains me to say this, man, but I'm not gonna call Pine Bluff a gimme win for Bethune-Cookman. That's a game that could go either way.
Exactly.
I got at best I'm gonna say 3-9. At worst, I'm gonna give them 1 win.
You see that? That's why I got them. Worst case 1-11. It's the Edward Waters game.
Especially because they lack depth, and you open up with FIU and Miami. They could be wrecked, and then you go on the road to South Carolina State after that.
Yep.
Guys, before they even get to Edward Waters, they could be drowning.
Yep.
Really and truly, because if you think FIU, because that's where Willie went. If you think Willie is going to he is going to look to score 100 on Bethune-Cookman if he can, just on the premise of his Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Best case, I have him at 4 wins. And that's even being generous to me.
You know what? Bethune-Cookman is the Howard, even schedule-wise. Because remember, we talk about Howard playing Morehouse. We know we expect them to win, but if they lose that game, same thing with Bethune-Cookman. We're saying they're going to beat Edward Waters, but if they lose that game, look at how the rest of it pans out.
Yep, that's it, man. So that's Bethune-Cookman. I got them actually having the same conference record as last year, but yeah, I don't think that Woody will be able to survive this. So that's Bethune-Cookman. Next team, we get into a team that I know very well. Alabama A&M, Sam Shade hired as head coach. You see, Quad Brown is back. Ryan Morrow, Nick Glenn, and then we've got Cloy and Ramir Lewis and Donovan Wright. And some of our top newcomers, Frank Pierre, wide receiver transfer from Miles, and Trevante Abner, a tight end from Miles. And then also I talked about Tajarian Williams from Valley. All right, Alabama A&M, Blue.
I think out of all the new coaches, he's outside of Tremaine, right? I think he's probably in the best situation. Just with what you guys have coming back. I mean, I think you guys returned 14 players that played over 100 snaps last year on offense. And then defensively, it was an issue, right? Like that was the problem with A&M. You guys return most of the good pieces from that defense. You bring in a better defensive staff and defensive mind and add almost all his good players from Miles.
Right.
The defense has to be better. Like the baseline is so low, you figured it would take a step up. And I'll say this, I like the edge room with the Renza and Ellis in there. That has some potential. I like offensive line. You returned 3 starters on the offensive line. I'll say this, though. The season depends on Quad Brown. Everyone, I kind of laughed at the tweet that was put out this week where it was like Quad's going to solve the quarterback rotation. It was one of the local reporters. And I'm like, yeah, he's been on the roster for 3 years. He's part of the problem of why there's been a quarterback rotation. If he was as good as everyone thought he would, there wouldn't have been a quarterback rotation. Quad has had so much hype for like 4 years. He had hype when he was at UT and lost the job at UT Martin before he transferred. He won the championship, but he was the backup. This is the year Quad's got to really step up. He has all the tools, right? The size, the athleticism, the speed. He's got to take that next step as a passer, and that's going to determine how good A&M could really be, because he can go from competing for the East up at the top, finishing like second, pushing Jackson, or it could be you're barely above Bethune-Cookman and Valley, and you finish in the middle to lower part of this division. It all depends on how Quad Brown, because A&M has all the other pieces, in my opinion, to be successful.
Yeah. Zoe?
I'm actually bullish on A&M for all the reasons that Blue just stated. But when I look at the landscape of the East, how it finished out last season, then you look at where we are now with the transition from Maynard to Sam Shade, and you look at what he did at Miles and what he inherited at A&M and what he's looking to do, within his first year. I think it's going to be a change in similar philosophy because Maynard kind of changed things throughout the season, but they're going to lean on defense. They're going to run the ball. And again, that's a tried and true formula in football, similar to what I'm saying about Southern. And Alabama A&M, the cupboard wasn't bare. Like I said, they had good talent. And I'll just say this, I'll even say now, I believe I'm not going to just necessarily say who I believe is going to be second or third, but I'll just say it like this. I think the winner of the FAMU and Alabama A&M game will finish second. Like
so,
go ahead.
So I'm going to say, oh yeah. Wait, it says he been in college 7 years. Yes, this is his 7th year. I had to make sure I get that one out. Now, one thing I want to say, I am an A&M grad, but when I'm a very realistic A&M grad, as what you can see by my prediction. I had us at 6-6 or 5-7. And a lot of these games are interchangeable or a lot of moving around. Okay. The thing that I see for this team, there's a potential that they could get to 8 wins. If you think about the Alcorn game, the Tennessee State game, the Magic City Classic, the Grambling game, who they've beaten 3 years in a row. The aforementioned, what you said, Zoe, the FAMU game, but also there's games that could go either way of the ones that I said that they could win. Prairie View at Texas Southern. So that's why I was just like, okay, I really think that we're going to be really solid in the second half of the schedule. I think it's going to take a little bit to get going. And I know our fans are probably looking at him like, what the hell, Wild Wayne? You're supposed to be good to your own squad. But I got to be realistic as to how I see it. I just don't really know how they're going to be able to start the year. And I'll see what they got. But what do you guys think on this?
So I'll say this. So for all the praise and hype that surrounds, Tremaine Jackson being at Prairie View, and rightfully so. Some of it self-generated. Look at the juxtaposition to Alabama A&M. Sam Shade comes into a more stable situation in a state that he was already recruiting in. You know what I'm saying? We could talk about Tremaine Jackson bringing his staff, and also the same thing with Sam Shade. But again, Sam Shade, let's be real, has more connections and, within the state of Alabama by way of University of Alabama, but as well as being a mainstay in the Metro Birmingham area and also within Huntsville. When you talk about the talent that's there, he was already recruiting state. You know what I'm saying? He's already had inroads. And again, Alabama A&M already had the talent there. And so there's not so much plug and play in all these new things and everything got to come together in jail and get all these other small nuances. He has less nuances that he has to deal with within Alabama, within Alabama A&M, and so I think because of that, that's going to prove to work in his favor within this first year. Also, when you look at, again, the style of play, they're going to run the air raid and be heavily dependent on the quarterback over at Prairie View, not so much at Alabama A&M. And again, it's a tried and true formula. When you look at what the defenses were in the East last year, you had FAMU, you had Alabama State, and then you had Jackson State. Well, Alabama State loses their defensive coordinator. They lose their top three defensive players. And again, that's some newness coming in. Eddie Robinson is the main thing, but Eddie Robinson wasn't calling the defense. Sam Shade, we saw what he did at Miles. Now you're going to take that and transition that up to Huntsville. I think it's just going to bode to work well for them. And again, you look at the schedule, I would sit there and say, I agree wholeheartedly. Again, I got best case scenario 8-4. I got the worst LB is probably going to be 7-5. I think he's going to win within year one. It's going to come down to how the ball bounces. Like I said, to me, the game is going to be FAMU. I think if they win that game, I think they'll actually end up in second place within the conference, within the division.
Blue, what do you think about this?
He's a little bit higher than I am. I think it's a year 2 thing for me for Alabama A&M. I think one year, like Quentin says, I think next year's the year they make the push for the division. This year, I think the schedule's a little tough. Now, Alcorn's an out-of-conference game, so that's good. Even if you drop that one, it doesn't impact you in any way in the conference race. I think Tennessee State's a win, so I'd probably have them at 6-6.
Okay.
Personally, And I think Alabama State's a gettable game depending on how their defense develops, and same with Grambling. Now it's tough to go win in the hole, and I understand that, but Grambling's got some question marks too, and there's some teams that went in the hole and won some games over the past 2-3 years. So
Yeah.
that's a gettable game as well. And so I think there's a chance at 7-5. That's probably where I have the ceiling, and I think 6-6 is there. I think 5-7 might be the floor though.
Yeah. Well, that's what I got for us. And, I'm hoping for the best, man. I hope we get off to a real good start. But that's my team, Alabama A&M. All right, now let's move to Alabama State. All right. Like I said before at the beginning, Eddie Robinson is now the most tenured head coach in the SWAC. Still can't believe that. 4th season. Billy Gresham takes over as the new defensive coordinator. That's a big move for them because of how solid their defense was. You got Body and Key battling it out at quarterback. But you also see how I have the newcomer, Tashawn Smoot. That's another guy that when I asked Eddie Robinson about it at Media Day, he said, shh, don't talk about him yet. But Holtzclaw comes back. He was a little bit banged up there in the middle of the season. He's back, Keon Lewis, and then Mr. Smith at offensive lineman. We know what they lost, but talk about it, Blue. What you got for him here in year 4 for Coach Eddie Robinson?
I actually really like the Smoot addition. I don't think he's the guy this year, but for the future, if the staff stays around, I think he's going to be really good. I don't think there's a quarterback battle personally. I've heard Key has moved back to wide receiver.
Okay.
So I think it's Body. And they did bring in some other transfers outside of Smoot that could possibly push, but I've heard the whole goal of the offseason has been to get Andrew healthy and get him back at 100%, because as much as they didn't really use him as a passer in that first game against Central, his legs almost single-handedly carried Bama State back into that game.
Yeah.
And so I do think that Body's going to be the guy there at quarterback. But like you said, the running back rooms, I think, is going to be really good, man, especially with some of the injuries they had late in the season with Marcus Harris, Holtzclaw, and some other young guys in that room. And then I even think offensive line should be pretty good, man. 4 guys come back that started at least a game last year, and they've returned their entire wide receiving core. Like everybody at wide receiver outside, I think 1 guy comes back. Both their tackles should be really good. I really like Cameron Smith at tackle. The question mark, and this is so weird for me, is the question mark is defense for me. Just because of the coaching change, and they also lost a ton on the defensive side. They only returned 1 player that played over 400 snaps last year defensively. And that's a huge amount of turnover for this team. They have some young guys that played in rotational roles that should just step into starting roles. And listen, they've got another group of 6'3", 6'4", 6'2" corners to step in. I don't know where they keep finding them or where they're developing these guys at, but I don't think the defense is probably not going to be as dominant as last year as what we've come accustomed to seeing, but I still think the defense should be top 5 in the SWAC. And at the end of the day, that should be good enough to get you some games.
Yeah. I don't know if he stepped away or not, but I'll move to the prediction. So I have them at 7-5, which is exactly what they were last year. I actually have them not going up or not going down. I have their best case. If they get things together, to your point, defense, if they get their defense together, I think that they could possibly, maybe move a little bit higher. Also, the worst case, I see them maybe being at 5 wins. And again, that's really contingent upon some of the games here. Zoe, talk about it, man. What do you think about Alabama State?
I'm not bullish on Alabama State at all. I'll say this. We look at what Eddie Robinson's done since he's been there, and it's to be commended, right? No coaching pedigree whatsoever, came in and he's, far exceeded what we thought he would do, right? But we're going to this year, you look at Andrew Body, who, by all accounts, has the past 2 seasons had health issues. And now you look at everybody's speaking on what the defense was last year, and if they had quarterback play, because the team did a little bit better than what they would have been. The thing is that we're talking about the defense, but again, you lose your defensive coordinator. Sewell was the mainstay to bring that talent in there that they had. He's gone now. You lose your top 4 defensive players off of that defense. How do we just automatically assume that defense is going to still regenerate, be what it was last season? That typically doesn't happen under a brand new defensive coordinator. And then you talk about high turnover on defense. That's not normal. And then also, they're the SWAC version of Morgan State. So again, yes, they have something that we're familiar with in Andrew Body, but now it's to the point, can he stay healthy? And then even when he's healthy, I'm not a believer in any quarterback that's really just an athlete and can't really throw the ball. I understand he threw the ball great in high school, but he only had 24 yards passing in that first game against North Carolina Central last year. Yes, he had some great runs. He had over 100 yards rushing. But again, you're talking about sustaining that, because if you run that quarterback as much as they're going to depend on him to run, he got hurt on the run against North Carolina Central. So that kind of proves the point. They're going to have to get better quarterback play. And then again, it's everything else that they have on offense, right? So again, I don't see it. I really, really, really don't. They aren't good on offense. And then again, I think they're going to regress just logically on defense this year. I think if I were the best case scenario, I mean, looking at the schedule, UAB is a loss. I think Southern's going to get them. They'll win Miles. FAMU's a loss. Bethune-Cookman, they should get that game. You know what I'm saying? We'll say now that they'll win that game. Losing to Jackson State. I think Alabama A&M gets them. I think Prairie View gets them. I think Texas Southern gets Alabama State. And again, I think Valley got a chance to get them. The best case scenario for me is 6 wins. That's best. Their ceiling. I think their floor is 3 wins. And I think they'll fall in the middle. I think 5 and 7 is probably going to be where they probably end up at.
Okay. Well, I mean, they're going to face their old defensive coordinator right off the bat.
Week 1, yeah, because he's a UAB. I will say, like, the question for Body for me is obviously health, right? Because it's very rare you have a guy who has back-to-back years of injury, right? Like, he just couldn't. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. But I will say, if he is fully healthy, we have seen him in the SWAC throw the football really well. Like, people forget he ranks 3rd all time for a single season passing yardage to Texas Southern. Like, that 2022 year, he threw for over 2,000 yards, and he's actually the single season record holder for total offense in a year at Texas Southern. So if he stays healthy, he can do it.
All the thing about it, Texas Southern doesn't have a great pedigree for quarterback play.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. But he also surrounded by better talent at Bama State, I would hope, especially running back, right? Running back, they got talent there. It's their wide receivers, man. Like, they have all the receivers coming back, but because you had a 6-string wide receiver playing quarterback, none of those guys really got to show what they were able to do, right? Like, you take I don't know who y'all think's the best receiver in the SWAC, probably either Fertillion or Rimbert. If y'all took them and put them on a team where you had a 5'8", 6-string quarterback throwing to them, I mean, it's hard to really show off what you got route running, because you can't run a lot of go routes because you know we can't get it there. So it's very interesting on how they had to adjust the offense.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I have them staying at the same as what they were last year. But again, this thing could move either which way. We'll see how it progresses. But that's Alabama State. Now we move up. Now we go to FAMU. All right.
Ooh, this is a big one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Second season for Coach James Colsey. Henry Burris is now going to be full-time for a full season, the OC. You got multiple QBs on the roster competing for the starting job. You got 2 good running backs, Bo Somerset, Thad Franklin. They both come back. You got 2 first-teamers on that offensive line, Grable, who was really good, and Chucky Davis. They both come back. Westmoreland's their top returner on defense. When I talked to James Colsey, it wasn't the part when I was on camera with him, when we were kind of kicking it to the side. He said, we really need Westmoreland to catch up with the hype. He said, we need him to reach his potential. Like, he's shown flashes, but we need him to be at his top level. All right. Blue, FAMU. Curious to hear this one.
The enigma.
This is one of the hardest teams that I've had to evaluate this preseason. I'm going to be 100% honest with you, just because, 1, you don't know quarterback. 2, defensively, they return a lot of players, but they were players who either underachieved and or got banged up at one point of the year, things like that. Like, I just have so many question marks about their true ceiling. I think linebacker, they're going to be good. I like what they bring back in Navron Jenkins. Corner, they got Huggins. But then defensive tackle, you got Donald coming back. I just don't know if they have the depth on the interior defensive line. You saw that kind of rear its ugly head in some of these games, especially that Jackson game where they just got dominated up front. And then you look, like you said, Westmoreland and Gardner at the edge, they got to catch up to the hype, because when you look at these really good FAMU teams, you guys already know what it was. Getting to the quarterback. They had excellent defensive tackles. They had excellent edge rushers that can get after the quarterback. And I think Westmoreland's really good. When you watch the film, the problem is he wasn't able to take over games like they were used to. Offensive line, not worried about. But up until the end of the season, they were not able to run the football, and it was a true problem. Now, they did change OCs mid-year, so maybe that was a step in the right direction. But this year, they're going to have to elevate their quarterback play. I thought Richardson was fine, but I don't think he was the type of guy who could go win you a bunch of games. And they're going to have to find that. And I have questions about some of their additions. I personally think the kid they added from JUCO is the best quarterback on the roster. But from what I'm hearing, I don't know if he's going to be the starter. So I'm very curious to see where they're going to go at quarterback. And that's really going to determine their ceiling.
Yeah. Zoe?
FAMU has one major problem. They can't run the ball, and they can't stop the run.
Yep.
That was the thing that reared its head last year. And that remains to be seen, for this upcoming season, if they fixed or, rectified that problem. But, going into the season, that's a big question mark that has to be answered, because one thing that's going to be apparent in this year's version of the SWAC, you're going to have a lot of teams that's going to rely on the ground this upcoming season more than you will have in years past. And again, you go back to the Norfolk game, they got gashed. Go back to the South Carolina State game, go to the Jack State game. Even Southern was able to have some success running the ball against FAM. They that's a huge problem to have, right? Look, one thing that we all know, whether FAMU is undefeated or if they're winless, they're going to have talent. We know this. It's a matter of getting it, putting the pieces together. And again, they have the same question mark that other teams have. Quarterback play. Only thing with them is that they can't stop the run. And that's a huge thing for a defense. Look, I say all the time, people can go out here and yell names all they want to. At the end of the day, it comes down to production.
True.
So we talk about Jeremiah Williams. Jeremiah Williams plugged the hole. You're not running on Jack State like that. So again, we talk about names, but they can't stop the run. And that's going to be the thing, because if FAMU can stop the run, and if they can run the ball, then forget everything I even said about Alabama A&M, because then the tide changes, right? Then they're going to be more than a formidable team. But until we see that they can't stop the run and they can't run the ball, I can easily see them finishing up third within the conference, or possibly fourth.
Yeah, Bo Somerset, he finished the season pretty strong at the end last year. So we'll see. This is what I have them at, though. And now the best case, I kind of, I didn't know. This is an enigma. I don't know, man. They got there's a ceiling that's there, and then there's a big floor. Like, you see the drop off and the split between the two.
Yep.
I kind of split the difference on it. Because if everything that Colsey says, he said it. He's adamant. He said, we got to get better on defense, especially up the middle. We got to stop the run. He said, we got to be more sound in the passing game with whoever takes over quarterback. If they do the things that they're capable of doing, I think that this is where they could end up realistically. 8-4, 6-2. I don't see them being able to win. I don't see them going. I think Southern snaps that losing streak down there on the Bluff. I do. I think that, and we'll talk about Jackson State here in a minute. I think Jackson State is going to be able to go in there. Even though it's tough to win there when FAMU is FAMU. And also we talk about North Carolina Central. So they get a little bit of an easier start though. So, Howard and then also Albany State. So we'll see how they figure things out. But you guys talk about it. What do you guys think?
I tell you what, I say their ceiling is 9-3. I think at worst they'll be 7-5. I got the same thing that you have. I got them going 8-4. But again, I'm putting an asterisk by it because the main thing to me is going to be whoever wins the game between them and Alabama and them finishing up second. But I want to pose a question because they are an enigma, right? But let's say that it actually goes exactly like you have it on the screen, right? Mind you, They lost to Valley last year at Bragg. Then you say, okay, that's Central, Southern, and Jack State. Now, Jack State and Central are both at home. So again, there's 2 home losses. They finished 8-4. If they finish 8-4, 6-2 in the conference, are they relieving Cozy of his duties?
I don't think so. Go ahead,
You
Blue.
can't fire a coach that won 8 games. Like that's because, like you said, it's easy to fire coaches. It's really hard to replace them. If you fire a coach at 8 wins, you set the standard now. So now, even if your fans like who you bring in as a hire, if he doesn't win 8 games, he's got to be on the hot seat. It's the same predicament Southern got themselves in. You fire a coach 2 years after he makes the SWAC championship, and Southern had a winning record when they fired Dooley. Now Graves has to be held to the same standard. And so I don't think you could fire a coach at 8 wins. No chance. Like, I think the only way they let go of Colsey is if he wins 4 or less games.
Yeah. So
5 if they lose the last game, the Florida Classic. Like, that would be tough to lose 5. And you will have losses to Southern, Jackson, and Bethune-Cookman in that stretch.
Yeah. This could go either way, man. Like I said, if the bottom fell out and things, if they have musical chairs at quarterback, I mean, something I know very well about with my squad, some injuries, I don't know. So, but I think that they're capable. 8-4. All right. The team that many folks know and one gentleman knows very well about this team, Jackson State, they're looking to win the SWAC again, and defend their championship in HBCU. Also celebration. TC Taylor, 3rd season, head coach. These returners, now there's more returners than this, but these are some of the top returners. You talk about return your quarterback, Jacobian Morgan, Reed Pulliam, who I absolutely love. He's probably my favorite guy on your defense. No offense, but he's my favorite guy because he's so versatile. I think that guy could probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I think Reed Pulliam could be just like what Robert McDaniel was. He's that versatile. All right. Shamar Hawkins, another real good dude. Jeremiah Williams, we know how he did in the Celebration Bowl. Fortillion, good luck covering that guy one-on-one in the red zone. Travis Terrell, Lord Jesus, if we kick this guy the ball again. He's an athlete, but he can play running back. You can put him at receiver. He's a return specialist. DeAndre Towns Blue, best returning offensive lineman. Then you've got these 2 newcomers. We talked about Rembert, and then you got Shamar Savage coming over from Prairie View. Blue, Jackson State. Loaded.
Yeah, bullish on them. They were 13th in my preseason poll for the FCS Top 25. I think the ceiling is extremely high, and I don't know if there's been a team that's been set up well to repeat a Celebration Bowl champ since that A&T run when they won 3 in a row.
Yep.
This is the team that has the best chance to do it. They have 26 guys who played over 100 snaps coming back last year, along with a really good transfer portal class, which we had ranked in the top 10 of the FCS. Listen, man, you got to give it. I think there's when we had an episode earlier this year talk about the top FCS head coaches. There was not enough credit given to what TC had to rebuild at Jackson, because everyone who's outside of the HBCU space, right? If you don't know anything about HBCU football, you'll look and say, man, you just piggyback off of what Dion did, right? That's the outside perception. You see it on social media all the time. If you really understood everything they lost talent-wise, man, to win the Celebration Bowl year 2 and to be going into year 3 with a chance to win it, I don't know if there's been a better coaching job in the country right now. That is so impressive. And I know the jokes are fun and all, and the trash talk's fun. But I just wanted to take a second and say, more respect has to be put on what TC Taylor did in just 2 seasons as the head coach.
Yeah, man. Zoe, I know this is your squad. I know you're high, and you should be.
Yeah, I am, and for logical reasons, though. Not taking my blue and white glasses off. Not even speaking as a fan. The thing about this team, and TC Taylor's on the record saying it, this team is head and shoulders better than what last year's team is, and that's with losing Irv Mulligan. When you talk about Aaron Denario Davenport, who's TC's nephew, by the way, When you talk about bringing in Christian from USC, you look at, I'm going to say a name for you guys. Just keep Nate Blunt. When you guys get an introduction to who Nate Blunt is, you're going to say, my God. When you talk about the wide receiver room, listen, you talk about having SWAC TO, which I announced before the season last year about SWAC TO, and you see the season that he had last year. You go to the South Carolina State game in the red zone, they double teamed him, right? What's up? That one touchdown that he got early was 1-on-1, but as the game went on, they doubled him. Well, now you can't. You cannot double SWAC TO anymore because you got SWAC TO out wide on one way. You got Shamar Savage out there, and now you got Nate, who is literally destroying people in the slot. Oh, no! Yep. Oh, by the way, if they go full wide, you got Dupree on the other side in the slot, who's a carbon copy of Nate Rimbert. And Dupree didn't even play the first 4 games of the season last year. He came on late. So, you know, the thing people have to understand is this team is ridiculously loaded. We talk about, you know, Jacobian and how he looked, but there was a lot of things actually going on within the first 4 games of the season last year. He was in his head. You know, there was a lot of stuff off the field that was actually going on. It wasn't like he was just a starter and just cut loose and he was struggling and sucking up the first 4 games. You're going to see a totally different Jacobian Morgan this year. I'm here to tell you guys, you're going to see a different type of quarterback with the general this upcoming season. This defense was on point. If you guys go back to T.C. Taylor's first year, the D-line was solid, but we sucked on that second level of defense. What do? We go recruit last year the linebackers. You totally forget about that. And so now you talk about Ashton Taylor. You talk about Reed pulling at the linebacker on the second level. Then you look at what we did on the back end. B.J. Washington is back. You know, Shamar Hawkins is there. These guys got great experience, and we're loaded with depth. KJ Chisholm, the true freshman who started last year, they're high on this kid. He got the measurables, added some weight. He's going to be a star within the SWAC. This team is ridiculously loaded. But I want to add one caveat too. TC Taylor, this season, if and when Jackson State wins the Celebration Bowl, he will have done something that only one coach in HBCU history has ever done. And that is win 2 national championships within his first 2 years.
3 years.
The first 3 years, I'm sorry. The only coach who's actually won a conference title within his first 2 years was actually Pete Richardson. The only one in HBCU history. The only one is Pete Richardson. The difference is TC Taylor will double him if he wins the Celebration Bowl because it'll be 2 national championships back to back within his first 3 years. So it's safe to say that TC Taylor will have solidified himself because you go back to Deion Sanders. And also, I want you guys to think, even macro on the FBS level, how many times do you have a prominent head coach who goes on to win conference titles 2 years back to back, leave and go somewhere else, and then his replacement comes in and upseats him and bests what he did? The only time I can even recall off the top of my head, one coach leaving and another coach coming in winning a title, but it was only one time, and that was Dennis Erickson with the Miami Hurricanes. So it's hard to even replicate that. And TC Taylor, for all the good that Deion Sanders did, TC Taylor will have done better at Jackson State than Deion Sanders did in his first 3 seasons. So again, I'm bullish on this team, and I can't wait to get this thing kicked off with him.
Well, here's what I got him at, and it's an obvious 10-1. I think that the Southern Mississippi game is the loss, but I wouldn't be surprised if they even battled those boys for real. Now, the worst case, I have to explain the worst case there because there is a worst case, and if you're a Jackson State fan, you might want to cover your ears. I'll say this, and this is the reality. Last year when you played Grambling, you turned the ball over 5 times despite outgaining them 483 to 271. Okay, you absolutely dominated that game on offense, but you gave the game to them. Also, the FAMU game, you know, two fumbles late in the game. FAMU had you down in the 4th quarter. So the bottom line is this: you still can be susceptible if you are not on your game. I don't believe, just even with the embarrassment of riches, I don't believe that they're not going to go 10-1. That's how confident I am in their ability. I do have to say that if you turn the ball over, and also if Jacoby and Morgan, for all that we say about him, he still needs to advance as a passer. And I believe he will, but he needs to advance as a passer. There's no question what he can do running the ball. We know he can run. But also, you guys know, and Blue, you know this because we've talked about it. He was susceptible to turning the ball over in the run game last year. So you correct those things, and you play at your highest level, you should go 10-1. But again, there's an equalizer there. We got to think here.
Also too with Jacobian, I think he's really good, right? There's no question he's the best quarterback returning in the SWAC, right? But I think even Jackson fans got frustrated at times because Jacobian would have performances where it would just not look good. And I think early in the season when he had those, it was because of the weird quarterback rotation they had with McCoy. But then you even look, people forget, first half against FAMU, Jacobian didn't play well.
No.
At all.
No.
He was struggling really bad through that big interception to Bowler, and he I believe he got strip sacked in that game. And if you remember, it was Irv Mulligan that pulled him out of that, and the run game took over, and then Jacobian got rolling. Southern game gets banged up, and that isn't playing well early in that one either, and then bounces back with the Celebration Bowl. Valley, he didn't play well.
No.
So he's had games where he hasn't performed well. And I think, to me, when I analyze a quarterback, consistency is the biggest thing I need to see from Jacobian. And I think if he gets consistent, you're talking about the ceiling. 10-1 should be really and truly like the goal. Like that should be the expectation for Jackson if you're looking at the schedule. But like you said, because if you couple bad performances with where you play, like for Jackson last year, their worst performance was Grambling. The fact that was on the road in the hole with an opportunistic defense like Grambling was the worst case scenario, right? If they have that game against somebody else like a Valley, maybe they still pull the game out, right? So what happens if Jacobian has a bad game at Southern and Baton Rouge, at FAMU, in Bragg? Like that would be the worst case. But to me, I think 10-1 should be the standard. I like the Southern Miss game more about 4 months ago than I do now. I just everyone who says that's going to be a walk in the park or that's a really easy upset has not looked at Southern Miss's roster and what Charles up. Like they really might have the best quarterback in the state of Mississippi, including the Ole Miss and Mississippi State quarterbacks with Braxton coming in, who has never lost as a starter.
Right.
Under Charles Huff, and was the Sun Belt newcomer of the year or whatever it was. I mean, that kid is stupid good. I think they should win every other game but that Southern Miss game.
Yeah.
Is going to be a player. They're going to be a player in the Sun Belt this year.
So I want to also add
they could make a push to win it.
And I want to add this too. The other reason why I say to the worst case that you have to keep in mind, everybody. You look at those back-to-back games there, 10-25 going out to Vegas. That's a nice long trip. Then you come back home and then you go right back down on the road to FAMU the very next week. That can't be understated. I have you winning those games, but I can just say, be careful.
And if I'm not mistaken, Grambling has a massive game after that trip too. Like the SWAC did them no favors with that scheduling because I want to say they have a key divisional game that next week too. I want to say it might be Alcorn.
Yep, and we're going to get to them because we're moving to the West next. But this is what I have for the East. I've got pretty much I have it as it was voted. 1 through 5, I have it as it was voted, and you can see how it shakes itself out. But yeah, it's gonna be a good year in the East, man. You'll see it. All right, now we go to the West. All right, we're at Pine Bluff. All right, Lonzo Hampton, 3rd year. Tough, man, tough. Giovanni Gibson leaves. Makai Hagans leaves. BJ Curry, he comes back. And you've got Christian Peters from Shaw. He transfers in at QB. Blue, what we got for UAPB, man?
What do you got for UAPB? I mean, I don't think this is going to be a very good year for UAPB. And they're in an impossible situation with the type. Again, it's similar to Valley, where every time you develop a good player, that kid is almost guaranteed to be playing somewhere else because you're not only do they have to fend off teams like Oklahoma from coming to get a guy like Giovanni Gibson, you have to fend off teams like FAMU, Jackson, Southern, like other SWAC teams will come poach your players because they're even above you in resources and things like that. So again, Valley and UAPB in this age of college football, brutal. Hampton's probably on the hot seat a little bit, but I will say I do think Christian Peters is good. I think he could have a really good year. The problem is weapons are a massive question mark, and I've heard some up and down things throughout camp from my guy up there. I don't exactly know what to expect from UAPB, but I don't think it's going to be a very good year this year.
Yeah, I'll switch the slide. I'll tell you what I got them.
Yep.
Those two gimmies. They'll beat Lincoln and Westgate Christian. And for all of the knowledge that your boy has, I ain't ever heard of Westgate Christian until now. And that's saying a lot for me.
I would actually go on record and say I think UAPB is the worst program in the SWAC. The absolute worst one. And then you couple that again, it's already tough to deal with the departure of a really, really good quarterback, but then you lose again. We're talking about a type of talent that leaves Pine Bluff and goes directly to Oklahoma. You had that and you couldn't win with that. Now you're talking about trying to replace both of them, and there's some other players that they have as well. I think 2 wins is the ceiling.
Yeah. Now they have been able to. Now last year they went 3-9. They did pick off PV at home. They go to Bethune-Cookman. Who knows? But this is tough. And then I'll bring up something you said earlier, Blue. Look at them first 2 games at Texas Tech, man. Come on, man.
Look at November though.
Yeah.
Southern, FAM, PV, Bama State. And like the problem is you said they picked off someone at home last year. All their winnable conference games are on the road, which makes you feel horrible. Like schedules, Matt, and then your home game. So let's just say they pick off someone at home. Who are you guys picking? Grambling, Southern, FAM? Are there 3 conference games at home?
Nope.
Because they play Alcorn and Memphis. So that's a home game they lose.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not picking any of those 3 to lose to UAPB next year.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Hey, I like Alonzo Hampton. He's a great gentleman, but man, you got a tough deal. All right, that's UAPB.
Wow.
Now we go to Texas Southern. Now you talk about enigma.
I was just gonna say that.
I gotta say though, Chris Dishman's second year, I told him to his face when I interviewed him at Media Day. This guy did a phenomenal job last year.
I told him the same thing.
They were 5-6 and could have been better than that. Go ahead, Blue.
I would say that was the best coaching job of the SWAC last year. That nobody had them winning more than 3 games. I didn't even hear the Texas Southern fans say they were winning more than 3 games. Nope. And they won 5 games with their starting quarterback getting hurt week 1, guys. He got hurt in the first game. And they still almost beat Lamar, who was a top 25 FCS team. They still came close. They should have beat Southern. That 2 games could have flipped the other direction. They could have won 7 games year 1 without their starting quarterback.
Yep. Yeah. So, but you see the intangibles. KJ Cooper, he's back. DeMarcus Thompson, really good defender. But you see, they got to replace the majority of defense.
Yeah.
Losing MJ Henson, he was a first-team All-SWAC last year, corner. He's gone. They got to replace a lot of that defense. And then also really only Lewis comes back from that running back room. Because remember, they were a running team when they were really doing well last year. Quintel Quinn, he was a good piece for them. He's out of the program. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. So I'll show you guys what I have for them because I don't know. I have them at the same level. 5-6, what they were last year. I have them at the same spot.
So it's funny you have that. So I was just about to say that I think Texas Southern is the enigma in the West. I agree with you wholeheartedly. In Houston, when we played them, I talked to Chris Dishman after the game, and I told him I was impressed with the job that he's doing. I love the way he coaches. I love the way he's going about handling his players, and his players are fighting for him. And I see a continuation of that, right? But again, it's the same old thing in the SWAC this year. What is he going to do at quarterback and what that's going to look like? But I think the rest of the team, man, he's gotten some players in there. And again, I love the way he coaches guys. And I see them actually trending up from year one to year two, because now, granted, somebody's going to take a step up and somebody's going to regress. Remember, Gray's first year was last year. This is his second year as well. Then you look at Alcorn coach; it's his second year. Somebody's going to take a step up. Somebody's going to regress, and I think the regressor is going to be Alcorn. When you look at Texas Southern and how they did last year, what he was able to do on a recruiting trail that fit what they're trying to do, I got their ceiling just like you. I got their ceiling at 7-4, but I got their floor 6-6. I mean 6-5.
6-5. Okay.
They're going to be right there, man. And I also agree. I got them winning that first game of the year against Prairie View as well.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really do. And because I think it's going to send shockwaves on SWAC TV, for the introduction of the app. I really, really do. But again, the thing is their schedule, those last 3 games are going to be the telltale thing. See how, for example, right now you got 5 and 6, but then you got 3 straight losses, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if they turn the tide in one of those games? See, that could be the thing that's going to change within their season. Look, we know they're going to California. We know they're going to lose to Lamar. Grambling, that's a toss-up for them, though, this year. But again, you got them losing, but it's not far-fetched to say that they could win that game.
Absolutely.
Right? And so the thing is, again, and I'll pass it over to Blue. I think the SWAC West is going to be a lot like what it has been the previous years. I think the winner of the division will have 2 losses. I do. But I also think that it's going to come down to Texas Southern, Prairie View, Grambling, and Southern. I think those 4 teams are going to be in the catbird seat to determine in that round robin who's going to win the West, even though I got Southern coming out winning it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that high on him. Like, he did a really good job last year. But like you said, defensively, they have to replace a lot. I do think they could actually sneak up on Lamar. Lamar has a lot of turnover. They almost beat him last year, even without KJ. Yep. That's a big out-of-conference win potentially for the SWAC because you also get them at home. And that's really, really big for Texas Southern. I think Grambling's a gettable game. It's obviously really hard to go win in the hole on the road, but that's a winnable game.
Mm-hmm.
Alcorn's a 50-50 type game. I actually think that Alcorn Texas Southern game could be huge because whoever wins that game is probably going to be the team, like Zoe said, that elevates to compete for the SWAC West. And I even think that last game against Alabama A&M could be a win. You get that one at home, and that's been a game that's been really competitive the last few times that A&M and Texas Southern have played, and you get that one at home. So I think you possibly could even see this. Like, I like your record at 5 and 6. I think that's where I would have them, but I think I might even flip where they beat Lamar, beat A&M, and they lose to PV and Alcorn State.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll see, man. I don't doubt Chris Dishman at all, man. That dude, he kept everything close to the vest too. He wasn't trying to give up any information. So we'll see, man. That's Texas Southern. All right, now we got Grambling. Mickey Joseph, second year. He's saying that he's going to call some of the offensive plays now in 2025. Then he said he's high about having Eric Losey, run game coordinator, offensive line coach, and talking about Chiron Carey, QB coach, joining the staff. These are 2 guys that have been with him a long time, and he was able to get them back. Chiron Carey was with him at LSU. Zay T-Set transfers in from Southern at QB. And then Trey Bradford. This was a key. People forgot about Trey Bradford. LSU transfer. He was hurt most of last year. He's back from injury. All right, Blue, what you got about Grambling?
Eric Losey was a massive hire. He was at Eastern Kentucky, where he was the O-line coach, and they've had like NFL draft picks come out of that program and on the offensive line under Walt Wells, who's also an offensive line guy himself. I love that hire for them. Also, they got my guy Wyatt Anderson from Valley, who was the recruiting coordinator at Valley. He's going over to Grambling as a tight end coach, so that they got a really nice staff over there. They're really high on the running back room. They think the running back room could be as good as it was 2 years ago when they had all those guys leave after Hugh and transfer up to the FBS. The one question I have is quarterback. Zay T-Set and Key, or I believe it was Keys, the JUCO kid they brought in.
Yep,
they're athletes. They're not bona fide passers yet, and I think they both need to take that step forward as a passer. So I think Grambling's going to have talent at wide receiver, talent at running back. Defense, I think, is going to be better than it was last year. They still got to find a pass rusher because since Sundiata Anderson left, they have not had a guy to really just go get the quarterback. I like the kid that was on first team all SWAC. I'm blanking on his name right now. He could be the guy. I believe it's Cage. Bryce Cage, he could take a step forward. He had a really underrated year. They still got to get some depth on the defensive line, and I think that's where they hurt last year a little bit. So that they got some positives, some negatives, but I think Grambling overall should be a better team. And like you pointed out earlier, you got to win those close games because losing one or two close games in a season can go from where you're looking back at your season and say, man, we were really successful, and we even could have been more, where if you lose all of them, you're talking about on the hot seat.
Yep. Yeah. So this is what I've got for them. And Zoe, you can talk you can talk about them here. I got them actually going 7-5. Okay. I have them at an even 4-4 in SWAC play. I'm gonna pray for them when they come up here and play at Ohio State. I work at Ohio State full time. Man, they're the only thing about that game, they're excited about hearing the band. Other than that, man, just run that $1 million and enjoy your time here in Columbus.
So I got Grambling best case scenario 8-4, and I got the floor being 6-6.
Okay.
And I think they'll probably end up being in the middle, but I think they really got a good chance of being 8-4. I like Grambling this year, but the thing is you can get tricked in with Grambling. They're the West version of FAMU to me. You know, again, they always have talent. It's Grambling. They always have talent. And I'm gonna say this. Look, I'm biased. To T-Set. I think the kid is a player. Left-handed quarterback, and I like his game. I think he'll probably end up winning the job. But Ty Key is a formidable quarterback as well. The thing is just trying to have a feel for what they want to do this year in regards to run-pass ratio. But I believe they're going to run the ball. I know they want to be balanced, but I think if T-Set wins that job, man, I think Grambling is going to be a lot better than what they were last year. To segue into next season, watch this. If T-Set wins the job, you know he's going to be the starter going to the following season. So this is a building year for Grambling. That's the way that I view it. I just view Southern being that they have the way they have all those tight games last year, and Mickey Joseph, this is his second year as well. I just think from year 1 to year 2, Southern has more continuity than what Grambling does, and that'll be the thing to get them over the hump. It could be so close to the point where I think the Bayou Classic, like old days, could determine who actually wins the West, right? And so, again, I like Grambling. I really, really do. But that West is so topsy-turvy, and again, it's going to come down to those 4 teams. So, again, best, I got them at 8-4. Worst, like I said, be 6-6.
Yeah, he said, hopefully they play running clock when they play Ohio State. He said, I'll watch it for the bands. Yeah, that'll be interesting, man. So that's Grambling. All right. Here we go. Prairie View. Oh boy, Tremaine Jackson. He's had nothing to say. He's been the most quiet coach in the entire conference, the entire season. He's had nothing to say. He's hired from Valdosta State. You got 2 QBs returning, plus your leading rusher, McDowell. And then you see that bottom line, 24 FBS transfers and 16 FCS transfers. Blue, Prairie View.
Yeah, I am a believer in the hype train. I think they're going to be really good. And because I don't think this was a program that was super far off either. Like people forget this was a team that pushed for making the championship game in both the years they didn't go, and they've been 2 years out of the last 4?
2 out of the last 4, yeah.
Yeah, like this is not him coming into a program that hasn't competed well in the division. And I understand everyone's skeptical, but we just saw Chinnisberry go from D2 and win the MEAC. You can't convince me in the West. If they were in the East, yeah, the path's a little tougher, right? Who could Prairie View not beat in the West? They've competed and pushed or beaten everybody in the West at one point in the past 2 years with the same players that they have coming back. And I think when you got to analyze transfer portal classes different, right? I don't really care about your FBS drop downs that haven't played. That's like a 30% hit rate with those guys. But they added a ton of FCS transfers that played, started, and were contributors, along with bringing some guys from Valdosta who were contributors at Valdosta, who I'm beyond, like, that Valdosta team that he had last year could have competed in just about any FCS conference and won a handful of games. Like that's how good that Valdosta team was. There's a reason they didn't play many FCS schools at Valdosta. But I'm telling you, man, this team's going to be really good. I love Andre Dennis from Lamar, Malachi Williams from West Georgia, Dylan Spencer, who started his career at Jackson, was a starter last year for Central Arkansas, who made a push to the playoffs, Trevon Jones, Randall from ULM. This is a school that, man, they elevated their roster. The one question mark is quarterback, man. You have so many guys coming in at quarterback, and they've got some guys who are talented, but you have to pick the right guy, because Southern had a lot of talent at quarterback a few years ago, and they picked the wrong guy, and it possibly cost them a SWAC championship. You have to pick the right guy.
Yep. You got?
So here's my thing on PV. You know, again, I like the hire of Tremaine Jackson. Like what he's done so far, generating buzz, you know, in the offseason, and not many first-year coaches doing it, because guess what? None of the ones from last year in that first year did what he was able to do. So kudos to him for that. I'm just not bullish on them in this regard. I look at that Texas Southern game. I think that's going to be a tough game for them. I think Texas Southern going to clip them in that game. Homecoming for Southern, that's going to be a tough game for them. Can they win it? Yes, they can. Like Blue stated, you know, they've won these games, and they've had success in Baton Rouge. I just think Southern's a better team right now with continuity. I think if this was going into TJ's second year, I'd be totally different about them. But being the fact that they're going to run a pass-happy offense, brand new quarterback, it's getting the continuity down. That's the thing that has me off of them right now. You know, granted, could they win those games? Sure, they probably could, right? And again, they very well could be, instead of me saying it's a four-way tie, hell, it could be a five-way. It really, really could. I just think the fact that, again, being that they're going to be a pass-happy offense and the construct of the SWAC this year. And again, there's a lot of unknowns for us. You know, we're not PV insiders. We're just looking at what they got. I just think being that they're going to be a pass-happy offense, I don't see it clicking and doing what it's going to do. Because typically, even you go back to Hal Mummy, or even what's my guy that was with him?
You're talking about Mike Leach.
Mike Leach. You know, look at what they did in Kentucky. They were able to shock the SEC system by putting up the yardage, but they didn't have success. But that second year, that third year, that's when the tide turned. You know what I'm saying? They had success offensively, but it didn't equate to wins like it did the second, the third, and fourth year. And even then, they didn't just go crazy and get double-digit wins either. But, you know, they had some success. So what I can see from Prairie View is next season, I can see them putting up yards, putting up numbers, you know what I'm saying, and possibly coming up short in some key games. But then again, they could possibly end up winning a few close of those as well. So what I would think are out the top, man, I would see them high siding it 7-5, low ball it probably about 5-7.
So this is what I had, and I'm gonna say this before I flip this over. I had a hell of a time with this prediction. This is what I have them at. 7-5. Yep. I had a hell of a time. But look at this, though. Best case, though, I can see them getting all the way up to 9 wins, man.
But
I can see that, too.
Well, you know what? And you know what? And I forgot about this. You're absolutely right, because the one thing, I forgot who we said in the East was like this, but the one thing that's working for them that I have to say, so forgive me, I got to backtrack, their schedule. They have the easiest pathway in the West schedule-wise. So I have to take into account for that. So disregard what I said. It will be a 5-team race, because their schedule lines, they have the easiest pathway. And
you think so?
Also, yes. And also, yes. Also, in saying that, that's not a disregard to the team in saying that. They're saying that their schedule set up they have less resistance, more so because you look at their road games, Alcorn on the road. Their toughest game is going to be Southern for homecoming. I mean, everything else. Dallas is in non-conference. I mean, not non-conference. It's a neutral site in Dallas for Grambling, and they've had success with them there. They don't play Grambling in the hole, which is an advantage for them. They got Alcorn on the road. They've had success there. Alabama State is at home. Pine Bluff is at home. Valley at home. They don't play FAMU. They don't play. They don't play Jackson State. So I mean, they have the easier pathway. Their toughest Eastern opponent, it comes down to Alabama A&M and Alabama State. Think about that.
Yeah,
they have the easier pathway. So yes, it'll be 5 teams. It'll be a 5-team round robin to get into the SWAC West crown.
Blue, you like this, or you like the best case?
I would have them 1 win. I think 8-4 is where I would have them. I personally right now have them beating Alabama A&M. So I would have them at 8-4. I saw a comment that said PV versus JSU in the SWAC championship, loser going to the playoffs. Can't happen. SWAC championship is after the playoffs start. So if PV and Jackson go to the SWAC championship, they can't go to the playoffs. You have to miss the SWAC championship to go to the playoffs. I will say, I think you could flip either the Texas Southern game or the Alabama A&M game. I think best case is doable. That stretch with Alcorn and Southern is really tough, though, man. Like to get both of those games on the road is brutal. I am curious about their offense, though, because if you remember, they don't have the same offensive coordinator that he had at Valdosta. He stayed at Valdosta and became the head coach, if I'm not mistaken, because his former OC was a quarterback at Valdosta as a legend over there, and it was going to stay. He hires Chris Buckner, who, if I'm not mistaken, started his coaching career at Jackson State. It was like the early 2010s, if I'm not mistaken. He was an OC at a sub D1 level, was really good. I'm very curious to see what their offense looks like. He still runs a pass-happy scheme, but that whole defensive staff stays. And I think defensively, they're really going to take a step forward. I just don't know, can the defense win them enough games as the quarterback matures, depending on who they pick?
Yeah, they have a chance if they get things right. Again, it seems like I'm saying the same thing like I said about FAMU. If they get things right, these boys can click, and I like them to possibly win 9 games at the highest ceiling. It'll be interesting. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
And one thing before we move on, just we have to factor in, no matter what we think about who we expect to win or who we think was going to have a bad year, all these teams have one thing in common: brand new quarterback.
Yep. So that is Prairie View. We got 2 more teams here to close it out. Now we get to Alcorn.
This is going to be a good debate here.
Yeah. Cedric Thomas, second year. Last year they were 6-6. Everybody heard him say, we needed to get bigger. He said we were undersized. We got pushed around in our biggest games. That's what he said. Now, their top returners, these are 3 pretty good dudes. Jacorian Sewell, the top returning running back in yardage-wise in the league, and Stamarian Edwards, the leading returning tackler. Those are 2 really good pieces to have. Gideon Spotsville, he's another really solid defensive lineman. These are your 2 dudes that are challenging with Trey Lawrence. Trey Lawrence, thank you, at quarterback. Jalen Tolbert, who transferred from Howard. Andre Washington from Charlotte. Then you got some other guys on that offensive line. Again, he said we needed to get bigger. Jaden Bryant came over from Norfolk State, and Andre Barton, a big dude from UTEP. Okay. All things said, I see, Zoe, I'm going to let you take the first swing here, man. Go with it.
So before I even say anything, I want to pose a question, right? Because Alcorn, if you really look at it, Alcorn is a mirror image, exact mirror image, carbon copy of Alabama State. If you really think about it. What I mean by that is, only difference is Alabama State is bringing back Andrew Body, who's a known talent, but outside of that, Alabama State is losing their defensive coordinator, losing their top defenders. There's a question mark when it comes to defense. Alcorn defense wasn't that good, but then their thing is they have the scheme and they're just trying to put bodies in there to actually be halfway decent. Because my whole philosophy is you don't have to have the best defense in the conference to win, but you need to be the top half of the conference. If you're 5 or better, you can win games within this conference. But then look at offense, because at the end of the day, Alabama State won how many games on defense and a wide receiver playing quarterback, right? Well, Alcorn finished 6-6, and they couldn't throw the ball at all.
No.
At all. And yet they still finished 6-6. Difference is Alabama State had a third-year head coach. Alcorn had a rookie head coach. So, again, we transition from year 1 to year 2. What does that look like? Same thing like everybody else. They got to find a quarterback, and we all know this. But then Alcorn, one thing Alcorn could do that Alcorn can run the ball. They keep a running back. Alcorn has talent. They always going to have one good tight end. They're always going to have one good solid receiver. And they still have that now. The thing is going to be the trigger man. Alcorn, as we've always known it, typically has a damn good defense. But I'm willing to give them a mulligan because it was year 1 in a transition year. What is that going to look like in year 2? So to me, I'd be remiss if I sit there and say, if I'm going to high side and give Alabama State at best, 6 wins, I can say the same thing for Alcorn. I really, really could. I can see them possibly 7-5. I don't see it. I got them 6-6. I got them finishing 6-6 again this year. But the worst they can be, I think it'll be 4 wins.
All right, Blue, tell us about the Braves, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Like I usually am not confused because I can see people's argument. Usually, like even if I evaluate a team differently, I'm like, okay, they're looking at it from this perspective. I don't know if there's a team that's gotten more disrespect in the offseason than like Alcorn has. I've heard some like insane things be said about this school. And was last year a really good year? No. Was it what they wanted? But let me ask you, I mean, one, I don't think any one of us, like, let's just say the SWAC had the media vote preseason poll last year.
Mhm.
I don't know a single person who would have voted Alcorn number 1 for the first year head coach.
No.
If Alcorn was voted 3rd, like they were supposed to be, would anybody be saying that said had a terrible first year going 6-6?
No.
It was the preseason poll that set them up for disappointment, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because look at their losses too. Outside of Jackson, what team in the SWAC embarrassed them?
Nobody. Because they gave up 295 at Southern, but that was a 4-quarter game.
Lost by 4 to Alabama State.
Yep.
And then they got blown out by Jackson.
Yep.
So where was the conference game where they just got the doors blown off of them? I didn't see it. And everyone just acted like Alcorn was terrible last year. Guys, their defense still was what, 6th in the SWAC? It's not like their defense was 12th in the SWAC. And they could before going into Jackson, they were top 5.
They were one-dimensional on offense. Totally.
Yeah, they couldn't throw the ball. Plus, I gotta say too, Alcorn's schedule last year was damn near unfair. Like them boys had to play at Prairie View, at Southern. They played Alabama State in Mobile. Yeah, 2 FBS. They played UAB and they played Vanderbilt. You know what I'm saying? So, it was what it was. But here's what I got for Alcorn this year. Same thing, 7-5, man, 4-4 in the league.
I don't hate that. And I could see them winning Texas Southern, depending on what Texas Southern is, and that would put them at their best case.
Yep, 8-4, best case 8-4 for me. It's and here's the thing, man. That game against Southern, just for how much of a rivalry that is. Shout out to my boy G. Shout out to Swagging the Food as a Swagging Food Classic, like y'all like to call it. That game, man, it can be nasty down there on the reservation.
That last 3 is a killer for them.
That's tough.
Yeah, but luckily you get 2 at home though.
Correct.
And last time, everybody remembers what happened last time Southern came to the reservation. It got real ugly for Southern.
They beat the hell out of them last time.
Yeah, like the kid who was the safety. That kid had like 2 defensive touchdowns and he went stupid in that game
from New Orleans.
Yeah, man, good Lord. But I'll say this: the thing that I like about Alcorn, as much as their quarterback worries me, offensive line is going to be really good. They got 3 starters returning. They add the kid from Norfolk, who's a starter for 2 years for them. Because remember, their O-line coach at Alcorn came from Norfolk. So he recruited that kid, developed them. Guys, they have 2 running backs Jacorian Sewell was a first-team All-SWAC guy. They have a guy who was a first-team All-SoCon selection last year, and Reggie Davis, who's a senior, who started every game for Chattanooga last year in the SoCon. So they got two guys who could make a push for 1,000 yards. And Zoe, Wayne, y'all have watched SWAC football long enough. If Alcorn's got two good running backs, they are going to run the football until you're sick of watching them run the football. And the good thing is all their quarterbacks have to develop, but all their quarterbacks can run. And that's very dangerous if they can get on the move, install some RPOs, get them out of the pocket moving, and they return almost everybody from their receiving core last year outside of Truck Griffin at tight end. I think I'm a little bit higher on Alcorn than it seems like the public and most fans are in other media. I think I'm with you with the 8-4, 7-5, but if you flip some of these, like you get Southern and Grambling at home, if you win both those games, you feel real good of potentially winning that tiebreaker to get to the SWAC championship.
Yeah, man. And I am with you. I think Alcorn definitely has been disrespected. And I think Alcorn, I know a lot of things were said about last year and the misconceptions about last year, but I think that there's an opportunity for these boys to take a big step forward. And you saw Cedric Thomas at Media Day. You can see a determination there. He really wants to try to make it work, so that's Alcorn. And last but not least, we go down on the Bluff. Southern Jaguars, Fred McNair, he moves to QB coach this time. Okay. Now, last year, we know 8-5, lost in the SWAC championship game. We talk about all the close games, 3 overtime games. They won all the close ones. All right, top returners, Kelby Givens, we know about him. Herman Brister, he ain't been saying much this offseason. Not a single thing. He said nothing. And then you got Horatio Johnson, another. So you got 2 good safeties back there. Leading receiver Darren Morris, he comes back. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Jalen Woods returns at QB, and you got Cameron McCoy coming from Jackson State. QB is a question. We'll definitely talk about that. But here's some of the things that makes this thing interesting. Mike Franklin comes in from Jacksonville State. When Mike Franklin was healthy, that dude was serviceable. He could play. And then Trey Holly is a stud in the making coming from LSU. And all the reviews have been out there. We'll see how it translates to game action. Okay. Southern. Blue.
Oh, God. Okay, I'll start here. Offensive line is going to be one of the best in the SWAC. If you remember, it was after that McNeese game they made, or I believe the McNeese game, they made the big change on the offensive line, put a bunch of young guys in. They developed really, really well. They returned all of those guys back. They returned 5 guys who played over 460 snaps. You got Morris coming back at wide receiver. You have a few rotational guys at receiver that should be pretty good. You talk about the transfer at running back and Holly probably going to be the guy there. You got Franklin as well. But I think the defense, man, is actually going to be pretty good because I like Givens at edge. But I'll say this, the secondary for Southern is really where I think they're going to thrive. I really, really I know what Herman Brister is. Elijah West is just as good. And Xavier Spencer at corner is also really good. And you still got Horatio Johnson, who played a key role for that secondary. You got Page at linebacker. The one concern I have for Southern, just because they haven't played as a unit, who's going to go on the other side of Givens, because he's going to catch a lot of double teams early in the season.
Right.
And do you have defensive tackles that can eat up space on the interior and take those double teams? That way Givens and whoever your other edge rushers can get to the quarterback. They added a ton of size through the JUCO route and some high schoolers. They might be pretty young and inexperienced at D tackle. They got to find someone who emerges as a starter on the inside to free up Givens on the edge to go make plays.
I'm actually high on Southern because, again, you look at just the logic of it all, right? Again, Terrence Graves in his first year, he goes 8-5. And you're talking about, yes, they had 3 overtime games. Basically, damn near every game the Southern was in came down to the wire. Also, we got to mention the loss that they had at McNeese, another game they should have won. You know, they could have easily been, again, 9-4. We're talking about a first-time head coach. He would have done better than the guy he replaced. And so you look at again, where they were defensively, outside of Jackson State, they were stout. They were stout. Kelvin Givens is a player. And again, we're talking about from year 1 to year 2, what that looks like. So again, if that defense was what it was last year, you have to expect for it to be better in year 2. That just goes without saying. Also, you look at offense. Look who the OC is, what they want to do. Now, I'll give them this. Cam McCoy doesn't frighten me, but again, it's not about what he can do on the ball. It's what he does in the offense and what they're asking him to do. Similar to what Blue was saying about Alcorn, because we know Southern's going to run the ball. Holly is a dog. Franklin is a good back. Again, they're going to run the ball. The tried and true recipe of football, we know what it is, right? Play damn good defense, run the ball. You're going to be in every game. But I like the idea of the fact that Southern was in every game the way that they were last year, and they won those games. You take that, so I know going into the season, no matter how the games go, they're going to feel like they're in every game, and they're not going to quit. And again, losing a championship in year 1, that counts for something.
Yeah.
And so now you're going into year 2, they're going to be tried and true. But the same question comes down, you guys, like we said. Every team in the West is bringing in a brand new quarterback. What does that look like? If Woods can come in and make some passes on third down, manage the game, because Southern, they're going to be able to run the ball. O-line is strong. If they're having success running the ball, Southern is going to be dangerous. And again, it's going to come down to those 5 teams, but I got Southern because of the way last year was. I got Southern, again, possibly going, 9-3 in the regular season. I got the ceiling. The floor being 7-5.
Interesting you say that, because this is what I have, Matt. Interesting. That's what I have, Matt. I see them at 9-3, but worst case, man, if they struggle with quarterback, I can't understate that. If they struggle at quarterback, and also, man, if you lose a game early, like beyond the central game, I'm not talking about Valley, but like if you lose, like you slip up and lose like Alabama State at home, which is non-conference. Jackson State is your conference opener. And guys start, the fans start getting on. Perry White, you watching, them fans will get on you if you're not doing what you need to do. So worst case, the bottom could fall out. I still think they're a winning football team. I don't see them losing at all. I think the bottom of it could be 6-6. Best case could be 10-2, because let's keep it real. You're playing North Carolina Central in the opener. Who knows, man? North Carolina Central could come out flat. I don't know. Maybe you play a great game.
I pose the question. The way we're talking about it, and we know how the West is going to be, or what we see the West is going to be this year. What if Southern wins that first game? What does that look like? Does that change your perception of what could possibly happen for the rest of the season?
Yeah. To me, it does. What about you, Blue?
Yes, 1,000%. That Central can't lose that game.
Yeah. That's for me. That's how I feel. I also, again, Jackson State game. Whew, man, I'm looking forward to that game. I believe Jackson State wins that game, but man, they're tired of losing to them. That's why I think they split the difference. I think they do get FAMU because it's at home. They tired of losing to them. They lost to them 5 times in a row, lost to Jackson State 6 in a row. So there it is, man. That's what I got for them. And then here's what I have in the West. Look at that log jam. Wow. 4-4s,
That's
man.
insane.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. 4-4s. So you got a winless team, you got a 1-loss team, and then you got a bunch of 4-4s. That's how I see it. That's the West, man. Well, gentlemen, we've kind of gone through this whole thing, man. Looking forward to it. So according to how I have it, I see it as, and we kind of all agree, Jackson State versus North Carolina Central in the Celebration Bowl, which would be, that would be just awesome. And if both teams do what we think they're going to do, you'll have 2 ranked FCS teams playing each other in the Celebration Bowl, which would be great.
One top 10 team.
Yeah, one top 10 team. Yep, definitely. So tonight, everybody, we just went through the entire FCS HBCU gambit of all 21 teams. Those that just joined, make sure you like the stream. And those that have not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Blue, Zoe, love you guys. Thank you for taking the time and joining me on this preview. Everybody, there's so much material here. Zoe, your show is kicking off again. Tell them about where they can find you, brother.
Yeah, man, y'all can find me up on Zone Coverage Podcast, man. We're actually starting back up next week. Get ready for football season, man. We're gonna talk, even more about Blue Bloods because got Blue up here. Even more about Blue Bloods because we're gonna actually give this thing context and we're gonna actually break it down for every single one of them because ain't nothing like an understanding. Then we'll actually get into, all the preseason stuff, SWAC team, MEAC teams, and get ready for the season.
Yeah, and then Blue, what you got going on? Where are we gonna be able to find you, brother?
Yeah, me and Coach Fred will be back, I think tomorrow, actually. So we'll be back tomorrow, talking SWAC, HBC football, some FCS, and then obviously FCS football central on SI, man. The disrespect for North Carolina A&M and the HBCU blue blood debate's getting outrageous, man. Cam Newton even shouted him out. Y'all just don't understand, man. Y'all don't understand. But no, that debate got out of hand. We need to set some ground rules. No more blue blood debates. We got to save it for like every 5 years, man. It feels like 3 years in a row we've debated the same thing. And nothing's changed since 3 years ago.
Yeah, man. So, hey, our predictions tonight, our talk tonight, we just gave you the best of what we know. All of us, we follow the game religiously. We know the game religiously. Hey, it can go either way. But Zoe, Zach, appreciate both of y'all. All right.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. I'll see y'all soon. All right, everybody. So that was my show for tonight. Once again, make sure you like the stream. And also make sure you subscribe. Those that just joined this late, make sure that you you got all this plenty of good information that you can go back and see. My show this fall here on the ride, just like it was last year, same schedule. We're gonna be back with our Wednesday Wild Picks with Wild Wayne. I'll be going over all of the games for the week and showing everything, basically making picks and allowing you to have your comments and all those good things. And then also I'll have my Sunday recap show, which will also be this fall, where we'll break down all of the games from the previous week, and also set up everything for the coming week. So we are almost there, y'all. Getting very, very close to this game kicking itself off on August 23rd. We are so close, y'all. MEAC SWAC kickoff, Southern North Carolina Central getting it on down there in Atlanta. Game will be shown nationally on ESPN, on ABC. Looking forward to it all. Special shout out again. Thank you to Blue, Zach McKinnell, and also my guy, Zoe Phillips. And also thank you to everybody who has tuned in tonight. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate every comment. Once again, like the stream, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you next time. Good night, and God bless.
Thank you for joining us on the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright. As you exit the ride, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the like button, and catch up on all of our prior episodes. Until next time, God bless.